has grown his veterinary business to service 5,000 smallholder livestock farmers across 4 franchises. And he records an average revenue of $25,000 a month. Impressive. The first ever funding his business received was the seed capital from the Tony Elumelu Foundation. Nigerian Nkem Okocha has made it her life's mission to empower the bottom of the pyramid women through Mama Money. And what is Mama Money? It's a fintech social enterprise that supports women to help them increase their incomes. And as we all know, when women are empowered, entire communities are empowered. Thank you. In Benin, we have Vital Sunuvu, who has launched Exportunity. This is the first e-trade platform that allows seamless e-commerce business across global channels. And the list goes on. These stories are only a fraction of the entrepreneurial revolution that the foundation is driving. On average, the Tony Elumelu entrepreneurs have increased their profits over 100%. And also, the jobs they have created have grown by 87%. We are literally witnessing the transformative power of private capital in changing the lives of individuals and the fate of communities across Africa. Our entrepreneurs are building industries, they're leveraging technology across value chains to create scalable and sustainable solutions to problems hitherto deemed impossible to solve. I recall standing here last year before the class of 2016 and saying to them that if I can do it, if I can embrace entrepreneurship and make a success of it, I, as our MC so eloquently put it, a medical doctor. And as we all know, medical doctors have never been known to be great business people. I, as a woman, yes, we know women have come a long way, but there is still room. There's still room to grow. There's still room for improvement. As a matter of fact, the Tony Elumelu Foundation is testament to the fact that women are improving. From 3 years we've been in existence, women have grown. As the numbers have grown increasingly from 20,000 applicants to 45,000 applicants to almost 100,000 applicants, women have grown from 24% to 36% and now to 39% this year. So yes, indeed, we can do it. And lastly, as a mother, we all know what it is. I'm not just a mother of 7 children. So, if I can do it, then every single one of you sitting here has no excuses, as you are all uniquely positioned to succeed. And why do I say this? I say this because whilst the funding or the financial support that you will receive in form of seed capital to you is important, and yes, indeed, we know it is important, I want to tell you that the 12 weeks you've just gone through, the training, the mentoring, the sessions you will go through this weekend, the mentoring, the networks that you will form over the next few days and even beyond are as important, if not even more important, than the funding. And so, I want you to realize and to take these days seriously and know that these are almost invaluable, and they will form infallible building blocks to the development of your own pillars, which together will uplift the continent. And so, it is my hope and my prayer that you get as much as you can from these 2 days, and that there will be another step in your journey towards successful businesses and fruitful, rewarding business relationships and partnerships that will indeed transform Africa. I wish you an exciting 2 days. Thank you very much.
Don't stop it. Don't stop it until she has taken her seat. Okay, you can take your seats now. Thank you. You know, of all the things she said, when she said she has 7 children, and I'm wondering, she's looking as if she's not even married. Perpetual youth. Let's put our hands together one more time for her. You know, especially when I'm addressing the young women here, how many of you, when you are married and you have 7 kids, will allow your husband to put down $100 million to help other people? You said, yeah, you don't know, you know, my daddy in the village, but this woman allowed her husband to do so. It's not as if she doesn't have needs, because giving is a gift. It's a different kind of grace. It's either you have it or you don't. There are people who are richer than their family who are not giving at all. Be careful. In the next 20 years, when you're as rich as Tony Elumelu, also give. Remember where you're coming from. Remember the days when you are in Lagos here from your countries and you want to call home and there's even no data on your phone. Remember those days of small beginning, so that when you see others in that position, you will understand. So thank you very much. So your mommy is here. We were looking for her earlier. You saw me carry placards. We are looking for her mommy. But she's here now, amazing woman. This is the 3rd year, and she's still here tendering to the children of Africa, saying, until Africa has entrepreneurs that can bring down the walls of poverty and elevate our people, I will not rest. That's her determination. Please welcome here, Pamenda VOB. If you stop clapping, there'll be no lunch for you.
Thank you. Come and take a seat. 3 years. I thought I was going to just about make it for 9 months and give birth and leave. But 3 years, it's compelling, it's infectious. I cannot leave, huh? And every day my daughters, you know, I am a mother actually, just of 2 children, not 7. I'm also a professional, just like Dr. Elumelu. But Dr. Elumelu is a Wonder Woman. No, really. You know, without her dedication and her commitment, and absolutely the commitment of $100 million to invest in African entrepreneurs, we would just be talking. And the amazing thing about the Elumelu is they don't talk, they walk. They are doers. So I have a very, really welcome to the largest gathering of African entrepreneurs and the African ecosystem on this continent, and we've achieved it in 3 years. When we started, a lot of people said we were crazy, and then others said we were crazy good. But we have shown that it is possible to connect Africa and unleash the extraordinary ingenuity and talent within Africa amongst its young and oldpreneurs. Remember, the olderpreneurs are now the growing entrepreneurs on this in Africa as well as other parts of the world. So Dr. Elumelu, she's not as old as I I'm going to be 62 I'm going to be 62 next week. So, but the older entrepreneurs are also embracing entrepreneurship. And a lot of, and also our applicants are not just, you know, they're not 18-year-olds. They go from 18 to 65 to 70-year-old. So all of you have an entrepreneurial spirit. All of us have an entrepreneurial spirit in us. So welcome. Welcome Nigeria. Welcome entrepreneurs, 2017 entrepreneurs from 54 African countries. Nigerians, stand up and welcome our brothers and sisters from across Africa. Yeah. Thank you. This is where you build intra-Africa relationships and trade. 2015, 2016 alumni, the Tony Elumelu entrepreneurs who have been through the baptism of fire, welcome, and to join the 2017 entrepreneurs. Remember 2015, you were the pioneers. You didn't have anybody to look back to. Now we have 3 years of entrepreneurs to look back and forward to. I want to welcome the most important fundamental pillar of the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program, and that's our mentors. All our mentors, stand up. Wherever you are, stand up. We hosted a dinner for them last night. Whether your mentor was good, bad, or ugly, you need mentors. And the one thing that you will have learned is how to work with your mentor, how to leverage their knowledge. Remember, you're not always pitching for money. It's the fantastic, the amazing knowledge and experience that those people who've done it before that you can leverage on. So you will continue, as Mr. Elumelu continues to do, from the Banigo who gave him his first break to even today, he continues to call on his mentors to provide guidance and support. So mentoring and mentorship and mentors are a fundamental part of our life as entrepreneurs. I want to welcome also the past Tony Elumelu beneficiaries. Yes, we launched the program in 2015, but the foundation was set up in 2010, and it had laid the foundational framework from which the entrepreneurship program will emerge. So we welcome the past beneficiaries who have also joined us in this extraordinary gathering. And there are a lot of non-selected entrepreneurs, and that's beautiful, because what's amazing of the 150,000 plus applications that we've received over the last 3 years, those entrepreneurs who didn't get selected never give up. And that's the extraordinary spirit of entrepreneurs. And many of them have joined us for the forum, for their learning, so that they will apply and they will succeed. We also welcome the guests represented here at the entrepreneurship ecosystem from across the ecosystem. We have 200 plus guests from Swaziland to Switzerland, from USA to Europe, from across the world. And we welcome you, because it's only by coming to Africa and by coming to Nigeria in particular that we will change the negative narrative of Africa. And you are important ambassadors in helping us, the foundation, to do that. Nigeria deserves a fantastic press and a fantastic perception. It is an extraordinary country, full of extraordinary people. So the established entrepreneurs, the incubators and hubs, the corporate finance and business, the corporations and the business community, the funding institutions, the multilateral donor agencies, governments and policymakers, think tanks, foundations, and academic institutions who are all gathered here today and tomorrow. You are all welcome, because we as entrepreneurs do not live in an island isolated. We are dependent on an energetic, on a vibrant, on an enabling environment in which we are building our businesses. And all of you, all the ecosystems, what's going on, have a role to play. So one of the things, in 2015 we started with a boot camp, which is literally we were camping. In 2016 we graduated to a gathering. But in 2017 we're moving to a convening, and the convening is of the entrepreneurs and the ecosystem. That shows that we have built a movement. That shows that the foundation and the mission vision that Mr. Elumelu started with is having an impact across Africa and across the world. We want to influence the policymakers and the international development community to recognize and embrace entrepreneurship as a new model for business development in Africa. As Dr. Elumelu said, we are no longer dependent on aid. Yes, aid has a place, but entrepreneurs, we are not grantpreneurs. We are not grant seekers. We are seeking investment. Investment in the form of knowledge, in the form of capital. That is what is going to enable our products and services to be developed so that we can have customers who will pay for and buy our products and services. The foundation is already and wants to continue to build and shape the agenda local, the national, and the regional agendas, and the global agenda for the growth of African entrepreneurship. So no, we're not just satisfied by doing what we're doing here in Africa, across the 54 African countries. We want to take this message out to the world to say, look at Africa in a different way. Embrace the energy and the ingenuity of its entrepreneurs to transform Africa from within and not from outside. I just want to really, oh wow, how much time do I have? Because I could go on. Because really, in terms of what I'm here to do is to share with you some of the highlights since we launched the program in 2015. And then share with you a documentary. Every year we have produced a documentary of the journey of the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program and the journey and our journey as a foundation. And this year we've edited the highlights of 2016. So you remember there are some 2015, 2016, you got to see the journey of the 2015 last year. 2017, you're going to be able to see the journey and hear some of the extraordinary events that took place in this auditorium in October 2016. You're going to be able to hear and see that. And we know that over the 10 years, when the 10th cohort of entrepreneurs apply, they will be able to look back over those 10 years through these documentary films and see how the foundation has really impacted on Africa and on its economic and social transformation. Dr. Elumelu has already shared just one or two stories of the impact that these entrepreneurs are making. So let me just go very quickly. So we've invested in 3,000. We've provided training, funding, and mentoring, and seed capital. 2017, your seed capital will be with you by the end of this year. We will have invested in 3,000 entrepreneurs. That's 3,000 investable businesses for those who are looking to invest. Dr. Elumelu has already mentioned that we've increased our application from 20,000 to over 150,000 by 2017. 93,000 of you came to the portal. And that was compared to 45,000 the year before and 20,000 in 2015. So we're growing, and we're constantly growing. But Mr. Elumelu will not let us sit on our laurels. He talks about that it leaves a bittersweet taste in his mouth when we can select 1,000 and not be able to support the other 92,000 this year that applied, plus those from 2015 and 2016. There are a lot of things that we're doing to rectify that. Gender, absolutely. But what's beautiful about how we've achieved the increase from 24% to 39%, as Dr. Elumelu mentioned, is by using you women business owners as the role models to inspire other women business owners to apply to the foundation for the program. And we will continue to increase. And as Mr. Elumelu said, it will be fantastic when women overtake men in the number of applications that we select. Seed capital, I've never seen money leave our office so fast as I've seen the seed capital leave our doors in 2015 and 2016. $10 million have been dispersed. Another $5 million will be dispersed by the end of this year. That seed capital is fundamental and very, very important in terms of how you apply that seed capital together with your training, together with your training and your mentoring. We built the most extraordinary program infrastructure. In the first year, we were renting technology from American and European companies. This year, we own our own technology. And my glasses have just arrived. Professor Henriquez, who is here to join us. Now I can see everything. No, so really, literally, we were paying hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it was capital flight was going out of Nigeria, Mr. Elumelu's pocket, and into the American pockets. We put a stop to that. We built our own application portal. We built our own mentor learning platform, and we built our own technology hub. And to boot, we built it using local softwares. And one of them, and some of them were our own Tony Elumelu entrepreneurs. So we're playing it forward. Sponsorship, partnerships. We have created the most amazing strategic partnerships. Entrepreneurs, this is a journey. It's an ongoing journey. You were already on your entrepreneurial journey. You now, you took advantage of the foundation, and you will continue on that journey. And we want to continue providing you with ongoing business support services. And in order for you to leverage those services, no, we're not going to be writing to you by email. No, we're not going to be sending pigeons with messages saying, please, here's another opportunity for you. It is your responsibility as the alumni, 3,000 of you, to be registered on the TEF Hub. That is the only place where we will post ongoing funding opportunity, mentoring opportunities, further second stage business development opportunities. If you don't register on the hub, put your business profiles on the hub, you are losing out on amazing value-add partnerships that we're creating. There are two kinds of partnerships. One is the value-add partnerships. We have Microsoft, our Microsoft people here. We have Sage One. Sage One is giving you, all of you, an accounting software. So at no point, so you will always know how much money you have in the account, how much money you are making, and how much are you losing. And they're giving that to you free. Microsoft is giving you software free, plus technical training of how to use that software. Green Tech, based in Germany, is coming to look for entrepreneurs from our investable pipeline to see how they can take some of you onto second stage development in order for you to be able to access venture capital funding. ITC, the International Trade Center, based in Geneva, built a platform called SheTrade to allow women business owners to want to export their businesses That's a platform for all women business owners to go to. We've signed an MOU with them, and they're making that platform available to you. GE Garage. You know GE, General Electric, have worked with us and trained 25 of our entrepreneurs in their training program. We've also published a number of very significant reports. Those publications are your tools in order for you to go and talk to your policymakers, talk to your incubators, talk to the hubs, talk to the multilateral donor agencies who want to come to Africa and help Africa, and use that information, is research, is evidence-based research, that you can say, well, actually, you know, this is what African entrepreneurs need, not what you think they need sitting in London or in New York. So read our impact report. Our impact report really documents the story of from 2010 to 2015. Read our phenomenal Unleashing Africa's Agricultural Entrepreneurs report. And before the end of this year, Bertha Center from Cape Town University will be publishing a case study on the foundation. Yes, we've become so important that universities are now writing case studies on the Tony Elumelu Foundation. Mr. Elumelu is relentless in his travel across Africa and in the world. In this year, we were in Davos, taking the African entrepreneurship story, WAF Africa in Durban, the Wall Street Journal's Africa Invest Conference, the Global Corporate Ventures reached out to us, the foundation, where they had brought together all the ventures, corporate venturing communities from across the world, and they gave us a platform to share the Tony Elumelu Foundation story. Why? Because they just couldn't believe that there was this one African giving away $100 million, empowering African entrepreneurs. And they also know that those corporations and those corporate ventures need entrepreneurs. And if they want to access Africa and the African market, the entrepreneurs are the gateway to that. We've also organized amazing meetups with the entrepreneurs. So this is your first physical meetup, but the foundation travels across Africa. We were in Ghana, Durban, Rwanda, Sierra Leone, Sokoto, Egypt, Morocco, and the list goes on of where Mr. Elumelu has taken us, and he has traveled himself, and where we have arranged for the entrepreneurs to come together in those countries, and for them to be presented to their presidents and to their policymakers on what investment in entrepreneurs can achieve. The entrepreneurship network, the alumni, is fundamental. It's a two-way relationship. We have invested in you, alumni, 2015, 2016, 2017. You now reinvest back in the foundation. You now reinvest back in in building the relationships with each other. We built the technology platform. It's the Facebook of African entrepreneurs. You have no excuse for not being connected with each other. The idea, I go to a lot of conferences where people talk about intra-Africa trade, intra-Africa business relationship. In the foundation, we're doing it in reality. And it is you, through the TEF hub, who are going to make this the destination, not just for all the ecosystem that I've outlined. That's where people will be driven to come and see the 3,000, the 4, the 5, the 10,000 entrepreneurs over the next 10 years. So I'm going to, pause on this, because really what we want to do is to show the documentary. So let me, and I want to come back and then we'll take a Q&A, because it's important to leave some time after you've experienced it. So why make a film? Those of you know something about me, that is, I'm really not a foundation person. I've spent 30 years as a filmmaker, a film producer, and a film financier. Hotel Rwanda, Life of Pi, Avatar. you know, these are some of the films that in my previous life that I invested in. What led me to filmmaking was my passion to tell stories. And for me, what compelled me to accept Mr. Elumelu's proposition in 2015 was when I spoke to him. He himself is a compelling story. If I wasn't running the foundation, I'd be making a film about the life and work of Mr. Elumelu. His own story of how he got to where he's got to, his vision. Most people have good stories, but they have zero vision. But his vision is extraordinary. His vision is not to just remain, his vision is Pan-Africa. His vision and his love and his affection for this continent is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And that is what attracted. And I remember sitting and listening to him thinking, wow, he'd make an amazing subject for a film. Now, we have 3,000 stories. All of you are a story that's worth hearing. So the film you're about to see is an account of the second round of TEF program. It's a resource for 2015, 2016, and 2017. It's an important resource for those who applied and were not selected. It's a documentation of how the program continues to inspire and innovate for all of the TEF stakeholders, the ecosystem across Africa and the world. The process is basically taking the footage. You see lots of cameras. We took the footage and the stills and infographics, and we did a master interview with Mr. Elumelu, who frames the documentaries, plus interviews with the 2015 and 2016 entrepreneurs. This is the toughest way to make a film. You have to sift through hours of the footage. We began the editing journey in January 2017, and we finished the film in September. I just want to point out that this film is not about the success stories. That is going to be the subject of our next film. It's 47 minutes long, so you have to sit, get rid of your social media nonsense of 140 characters, of likes and dislikes and shares. Put all of that away, turn your mobiles off, sit back, and actually absorb some knowledge. The film is having its premiere today at the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Forum. We will release the film post the forum, both online and offline. The goal is to reach 2 million viewers, both online and offline. We know it's possible because for the 2015 documentary, we achieved 1 million plus. I want to thank David Montfort, editor and director, who's worked with me relentlessly. This is David Montfort. I want to thank the TEF staff, the UBA Red TV, and of course, Mr. Elumelu for sponsoring the production. This is the first time in my life where I didn't have to go to 20 funding sources to make a movie. I just went to one. Finally, but of all the films I've produced, and I produced many in my 30-year film career, the 2 documentaries that I have produced are my proudest productions. As I said, telling stories, giving a voice to the voiceless was what inspired me to join the film and television industry. I can think of no better way of playing my skills, my knowledge, and experience forward than document the story of Mr. Tony Elumelu's vision. Films have a long life, and TEF films will endure. They're timeless. They will inspire generations to come because entrepreneurs have always and will continue to drive the social and economic transformation of societies around the world. I invite you to watch the TEF 2016 documentary, Empowering African Entrepreneurs. turn all the lights up, please?
I can't express how excited I am in words to be here and to be selected among the 1,000.
It's the opportunity for me to realize my dreams. So I go into business and start to make my way.
It challenges you to do things you never thought you could do.
Maybe if you'd have gone to a private school or an MBA, you must have paid a lot to get this kind of, enlightenment.
Ça me fait plaisir de voir des frères et sœurs qui veulent se rencontrer, se connaître, les partager et créer un réseau, peut-être le plus grand réseau africain.
Venho de Cabo Verde.
Je suis tunisien.
Je viens de la République du Bénin.
I'm from Edo State, Nigeria.
I'm from Ghana.
Zimbabwe.
Sudan.
From Rwanda.
Gabon.
Uganda.
Senegal.
Niger. I'm from the Gambia.
Welcome and thank you for coming to Lagos. If you want to feel the essence of entrepreneurship in Africa, the buzz of opportunities, and the heat of competition, come to Lagos. Can you feel it? The Tony Elumelu Foundation was founded in 2010 to help empower African youth, to help institutionalize luck, to help democratize access to sustainable living. This is born out of my belief and experience that the private sector has a key role to play in developing our continent. And it's so gratifying and truly amazing that in one's lifetime, in a short period of time, the dream or the vision is coming through.
In his pursuit of driving Africa's economic development, Mr. Elumelu launched a $100 million decade-long commitment to empower African entrepreneurs through the Tony Elumelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Program. The program is designed to identify entrepreneurs that have the potential to grow their businesses, create 1 million new jobs, and contribute at least $10 billion in additional revenues to the African economy. To help achieve Mr. Elumelu's vision, the foundation is supported by the prestigious investment firm Heirs Holdings and by one of the country's oldest institutions, United Bank for Africa, which operates in 19 African countries.
UBA's successful impact in helping to create infrastructure and foster intra-Africa trade is helping the entrepreneurship ecosystem that the Tony Elumelu entrepreneurs are leveraging on to actualize their economic aspirations. So I see it coming together, and the team at the Tony Elumelu Foundation have been very gracious in supporting Africans. The leadership, the CEO, the amazing lady I call the mother of entrepreneurs in Africa, they are just blazing. What drives them and motivates them, keeps them up at night to make sure they deliver, it's not necessarily because of the salary they earn, but it's the fact that they are part of a tectonic movement to change the face of Africa through entrepreneurship.
I have always wanted to impact Africa. So finding Tony Elumelu was like finding a pathway. And we are seen as doers, not just talkers. I believe in the vision, I believe in the dream, and I know that Africa's time is now.
So Mr. Elumelu, in a way, changes the narrative through the foundation, and I wanted to be a part of this.
Here was someone who was willing to actually put his money where his mouth is. You know, the opportunity and the privilege to work with that is amazing.
And his commitment to empowering young people like us, really, it comes through very strongly.
So it started from, a small team, and now it has grown phenomenally. So that is really, really important.
In the first 2 years, the foundation has provided $10 million as seed capital funding to the 2,000 selected entrepreneurs across Africa to support their businesses. In addition, the foundation has invested over $5 million in building the technology infrastructure, content, and marketing of the entrepreneurship program.
I get to oversee the online platforms that will cover email marketing, the website, social media platforms. It's almost like a personal relationship with these entrepreneurs where I get to hear how the things we're doing in the foundation is transforming their lives.
And we're very appreciative to our over 500 mentors across the globe who stay up at night when necessary to support these entrepreneurs. So what we're trying to do is, to us, the essence of Tony Elumelu Foundation, not just about giving capital, is giving capital, you learning how to manage capital, because if you manage $1, you learn and know how to manage $1 billion. The Tony Elumelu Foundation has achieved a lot. And I see this in the faces of young Africans I meet with, I interact with when I travel to countries. We have seen the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program grow from first year 20,000 applicants, second year 45,000 applicants, and it's amazing what you see, the energy you see, the hope that has been brought back to these young Africans, the can-do spirit. And they are just yearning and eager to do more.
To select the best candidates, the foundation developed a clearly defined selection criteria against which the application will be evaluated. The foundation also engaged Accenture development partners to ensure transparent application selection process. Among those 2016 applicants, agriculture is remarkably still accounting for over a quarter of all sectors. Plus, female entrepreneurs now represent 36% of all applicants, up from 24% in 2015.
We all know the challenges and barriers that are faced by women in the world at large, and especially in our own environment. So they need to believe it's possible. Things are changing. They just have to be disciplined. They have to be focused. They have to believe that there's nothing they can't do.
When we did the first round of 20 million entrepreneurs and we saw that female participation was less than 30, I wasn't happy about it. I personally tweeted on social media, I got a lot of people involved. I said, let's increase the participation. And interestingly, in some northern African countries, some countries you would think that will not have female participation at all. You won't have female leading. So it's a fantastic development. I'm very happy about this.
To complete their training, the 2016 class came together at the annual Tony Elumelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Forum, where they connected with business leaders and policymakers.
It's the second time I attend this meeting. I feel even more fever and enthusiasm.
This forum is the largest gathering of Pan-African entrepreneurs. A fantastic opportunity for entrepreneurs to test and showcase their business ideas.
I want to provide rural areas in Gambia that have completely no electricity, access to electricity, and that's through solar home systems.
We are into branding, digital marketing, and consulting.
Restaurant of Beauty is all about creativity out of our African prints.
We show the world the beauty in Nigeria, the best destinations you can imagine.
My business sector is in water treatment and supply.
Je suis dans l'agro-business, dans la production et la transformation de tomates.
We want to see a Ghanaian interact with someone from South Africa, also someone from North Africa, interact with someone from Kenya, and let them build economic ties. Ultimately, people do business with those they are comfortable with those they know. And nations and people who have economic ties don't go to war. So we need to begin to unite Africa from this point of view. The future leaders of Africa must indeed have platforms that bring them together.
Focusing on the uniqueness of the Foundation's approach to entrepreneurship development, His Excellency Ernest Bai Koroma, President of Sierra Leone, hailed the program as a genuinely innovative approach to philanthropy in Africa.
Let me begin by commending Mr. Tony Elumelu for creating this great opportunity for Africa's young entrepreneurs. I applaud your initiative to bring together political and economic leaders to work towards widening the sustainable economic development in the continent.
As a trustee of the Tony Elumelu Foundation, my commitment to all of you is to keep the foundation and the program going, to support you on your entrepreneurship journey, to open doors for you. You must fulfill and indeed surpass the expectation of the Tony Elumelu Foundation that is investing so much in your future. This is an opportunity of a lifetime. Rise up to meet it. I wish you all a wonderful 2 days of learning and networking.
I want to take this opportunity to really welcome you all from the bottom of my heart. I cannot tell you what a great pleasure it is to see you physically, having lived with you for the last 9 months online. You are building the biggest network of African entrepreneurs and African businesses. You're here also to obviously learn from those who've been through the baptism of fire. All the speakers, the international delegations who have come, many of them have traveled at their own expense to come to Lagos because they can feel that African entrepreneurs are on the rise. Yeah, they have come to experience firsthand what it is to engage and speak with the entrepreneurs directly.
I'm inspired just being here. Okay, so my name is Omoni Oboli. I'm a Nollywood actress and filmmaker, female filmmaker. And you all know how difficult it is. You always have to work twice as hard, especially when you're working in an industry that is male-dominated. But you know, we keep doing what we're doing, and we keep excelling. And there will always be pushbacks, but don't let anything stop you. As long as you've identified that thing or those things that you want to do, just keep at it. There is not one day that goes by that I don't do something that would advance me in my craft.
If your goal, your dream, your idea is not daunting enough, that means it's too small for you. In all the things you need to do to grow, to capacitize, and to scale up, you need financial institutions. UBA is ready, is steady, and available to work with you all the way.
My assessment is entrepreneurship inheres in Africans. The movement of goods in hundreds of years ago from, say, Kano to North Africa and the Mediterranean could only have been entrepreneurship. So what the foundation has done is to catalyze the existing and nascent attitudinal practices of Africans and to direct it into its area of focus.
This forum has been a stage for that. I've been able to network with so many great minds all over Africa. I got the opportunity to meet with the richest woman in Africa, Mrs. Alakija.
Many may see the grace and the glory, but they may not know the story. As an entrepreneur, never, ever take no for an answer. It took 15 years from the time that we were awarded the license in 1993 to 2008 when we struck first oil. This is one of the hallmarks of an entrepreneur, the ability to take risks. And to succeed, you must always make sure that you plan. Stay focused. And sooner than later, you will strike your oil. Thank you.
What kind of ancestor do you want to be? Money is not what's going to answer that question. Money is a means to an end. If you are African and you're not talking 100 years ahead of yourself in this world, you have failed. If you think that you can be wealthy and 10 people around you are going to be poor, you are in trouble. You have to make sure that you create ways in which all the people around you are growing as you are growing.
And when I was growing up, we used to revert to the mantra of the African forefathers, Sankara, Nkrumah, Nyerere, Nasser, Mandela. They had a vision for an Africa where Africans were creating African solutions to African problems. Almost 60 years later, you are living that mantra. You are here today because you are creating African solutions to African problems.
I see myself in their eyes. And I'm like, wow, it reminds me of like a few years back I was. And I know what it means to have someone sit with upcoming entrepreneurs and share his experience with them and make them relate to him.
We realize and recognize that in these parts of the world, we have a bit of a disadvantage. I can't go and meet my uncle and tell him, 3 angels appeared to me, I saw this, blah, 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 and I need $10,000. So that base infrastructure that is required to give entrepreneurs a boost is the reason why we have this program. It's important that you take advantage of that money because it's the seed. I know people in the last set that used the capital that we provided well. I also know people who did not use the capital that we provided well. The difference for me between the two, it boils down to how well you take the things you've learned in the last couple of months. A lot of planning, a lot of discipline, right? And you being focused on what you want to do. Believe me, you can do a lot with the $10,000 if you plan well. Cash is king. And in order for you to generate cash, you need to create value.
With this, I have a vision, I have a redefined value proposition, and I believe that in the next 5 years, we'll be able to cover the whole of Africa.
I was a polo player till about a year ago, and I wanted to come back to Nigeria, and so I wanted to build a polo club, and then I went to the banks the first time to try to get a loan. And I was told that it's 29% interest rate, and I was like, that's ridiculous. And so we wanted to build something to help entrepreneurs. And so we decided to look into crowdfunding, which equity crowdfunding. And we started a platform called Malike. And so from trying to build a polo club, I ended up building a finance company. So sometimes when you're frustrated with something, just come up with something to solve it yourself.
There are more and more funding opportunities in the last few years, but what it lacks is the empowerment of entrepreneurs. We need to have more entrepreneurs, more risk-taking, young people that are willing to forego a well-paid job in a multinational organization in order to go and start their own companies.
I am Group CEO at United Capital PLC. We're a leading African investment banking group. So in a couple of years' time, when your businesses continue to grow as they are growing, and you want to raise capital from the capital market, we will be available to advise you. And we are currently engaging with the Elumelu Foundation with a view to having an incubation fund as a solution in the near future for entrepreneurs like yourselves.
You see, my job was a parachute. So I said, you know what? Cut the damn parachute and just jump. I wanted that parachute gone because it was hit or miss. So people kept on saying it wasn't going to work when I first started, but I believed that it was going to work. Some people say, why do you have partners and how do you choose your partners? And some people say they've been cheated before. Have you ever been cheated before? Put up your hand. Have you ever cheated before? So you see that errors are made and mistakes are made. I knew I didn't know it all by myself. So maybe the first lesson is that you need to understand that everybody has the strengths and the weaknesses. Because you see, sometimes you have to give up something to get something that is bigger eventually.
It's my pleasure to introduce to you the two general overseers of the marketing ministries.
I'll be talking to you today on the topic, the softer side of selling. Listening is at the core of empathy. And you know, salesmen and women, sometimes we don't listen because we have our products ready-made and we want to shove it down the customer's throat. When a customer is saying something you know is right, that your product or service is not able to offer, integrity says, oh, you're actually right, but I'm going to go back and do some research.
There are people that have acted better movies, but we didn't know about them. There are people that have better products, but nobody knows about them. So selling is fundamental. In fact, your first title, thank you, your first title is the Chief Marketing and Sales Officer.
For instance, you're selling software as service and you've not launched into the market. How do you substantiate?
Have you bought books? You don't know the author, and all you did was look behind the book to see what others have said about it. And the book had not come out. But in that process, they get people to read and make what? Comments. So in your beta testing phase, you can give somebody to say, test this product, tell me what you think. Do you mind if I use your testimonial? That is credibility that you need in order to sell your product. Thank you.
Based on the fact that all products have some level of flaws, how do I present the information to the customer?
Focus on your strengths. Products are not perfect, services are not perfect, but focus on your strengths. Don't talk about the weaknesses. However, if they bring it up, you have to be honest.
Sir Chika Onya, can you be my mentor? Immediately.
The great news about somebody like me, I never turn a request like that down. So the answer is in the affirmative, yes. And that's immediately.
He talked about the soft part of sales, and I'm into soft skills. So he kind of helped to reorientate my idea about my business, and I feel that with such people like that in the industry of sales, marketing, and training, I think my kind of industry has a potential in Nigeria, in Africa, and of course in my local community.
And after each session, breaks and sector-specific discussions are also key for entrepreneurs to create opportunities for knowledge sharing, collaboration, and development of their business ideas.
Up to 30% of African medical drugs are counterfeit. Now, I came up with a system where in every point of sale, they check the legitimacy of that product, which again brings the problem. Why is it that when we deliver these medical products, everyone questions it, like, is it legitimate now? Are you guys okay?
I'm a consultant medical entrepreneur. I want to solve one of your problems.
I've been able to mingle with people in my field of business. And so this forum has availed me of the opportunity to meet other entrepreneurs who, at the end of the day, would supply me floating fish pellets. And I'll be able to subsidize my cost of production. What more can I ask for?
All entrepreneurs are either technology enabled or they are tech entrepreneurs, yeah? Companies like Microsoft, Google, all of the tech companies need talent, and Africa is a home for the new ICT talent, yeah?
Cheney is the Nigeria director for Andala. When Zuckerberg came to Nigeria, the $25 million he invested in was all over the news. So share some nuggets, even if you're not going to share some dollars.
I've worked within software, outside of software, big company, small company. I've started businesses from scratch, and then I've also helped to grow and advise companies. The things I've learned that are extremely important. The first one is around building for a purpose. Statistics show that 40% of employees around the world have no idea what their company's mission statement is. Right? So they go to work every day, but they have no idea why they're there. On the flip side, when you look at companies whose employees do know their mission statement, they have a 30% higher performance on average than their peers. And I think one thing that we've learned is the biggest driver of success for Andela is the fact that everybody at Andela knows our single purpose. It is to create the future leaders of Africa. The second is around hiring a team that is fit for purpose. If you look at the people that work at Andela today, we have super geeks that just want to code. We have people whose dream and passion is to build amazing products. We have people who actually want to lead. We have people who want to do operations. So our interview process is one of the most rigorous I've seen. I just want to say yes, maybe you applied. But it's deliberately so, because each time you bring a new person into your team, you're basically changing the course of your company, right? So imagine putting Messi or Ronaldo as goalkeeper. They'll either leave or they won't perform.
Now, I am going to call on Mr. Obinna Ezeke, and he needs no further introduction. I just need to say waka now.
My experience booking a flight here was actually terrible. I had to go to the airline's office. I didn't really have a bank account in Nigeria, so I had to transfer money in to my friend's account, my cousin's account. I had to get the money cash. The whole process was very tedious and lacked transparency. So I did a lot of study, and I tell people in this room, the entrepreneurs, if you're ever going to go into anything, you must actually spend a lot of time studying about the field in which you operate. You have to benchmark yourself against the best in the world. The most important thing is to find a solution for your own local community. So when we started building Wakana, it was about finding the solution for what the issues that the Nigerian traveler faced.
I have a challenge. I am the co-founder of InnoCrave Solution.
we're bringing green technology cleaning to Africa. Our technology is steam technology at its best. Imagine you cleaning your car, no water on the floor, no soap, no chemicals, and it's better than the conventional way. But guess what? The people in Kano, they see it and they're like, no water, no soap. Without water, without soap, it's not clean. So how do you use new technology to convince a developing market?
I think you don't force new technology down people's throats. There is what you call the new technology adoption life cycle. There are different people who are prone at different points in time to the new technology that you're bringing to the market. In my case, some people see online grocery shopping and immediately warm up to it. So what you're supposed to do is to identify those people and go after them. You have to think about who you're reaching and focus on those. As you saturate them, you move to the next segment and gradually work your way through.
This platform kind of gives a leverage to want to do more, think more, create innovative solutions and value for businesses all around Africa, all around Nigeria, and as far as you can get.
Online collection allows payments by anybody from any part of the world to make payments to you in your own currency where you are doing business. So I can be in Ghana selling cocoa to people in Nigeria or Uganda or Kenya and be collecting my money in cedis, even though the Kenyan just paid me in shillings. The system has capability to convert to the currency that you can use to continue to do your business. And you can also have a bank like UBA that can allow you to use all other bank branches to take cash collection for you. And you will have line of sight to electronic record of such collections. And at this point, I want to wish you excellent learning through the session to become good Afro-capitalists.
First, we need to understand the philosophy of Afro-capitalism. This is a realization first that the private sector has a role to play in the development of our continent. And a call, therefore, realizing this, that the private sector must come forward and be involved. For so long, we've been blaming government for everything. Well, okay, let's team up, bring resources together. And it's a call on the private sector to invest long-term in key sectors of the economy that can help to drive the economy, help to transform the economy, while creating economic profit and social wealth for everyone. So if you make or we make an investment in the power sector, there's profit motive, but at the same time, it helps to improve access to electricity on the continent, which has a lot of positive externalities for everyone, which will help entrepreneurs to succeed.
Afro-capitalism advocates for the private sector in Africa to take the lead, private sector including you entrepreneurs, to invest long-term in strategic sectors. Strategic sectors meaning that your focus is not only on extractives, your focus is not only on how much can I make in 1 year, in 30 days. Strategic sectors meaning that your capital deployment is patient. You're prepared to create not only economic profits, but social good, social prosperity, social wealth in the process. And our founder has been able to illustrate, prove, exemplify that you can do those two things at the same time. You can create social good while making record high profits. I invite you to transform the world through Afro-capitalism.
So at S Holdings, for us, we know that we have to be profitable, but more importantly, we know we have to impact mankind, humanity, in a sustainable fashion. What we do through the Elumelu Foundation is to make sure that this economic philosophy that will help us to develop as a continent is inculcated in the minds of young entrepreneurs who are coming up. And if you look at our eligibility criteria, we always ask people to tell us, if you look at the SDG, the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, we say, tell us which of them that your initiative will be able to address.
It's amazing what they've achieved in just such a short time. Just because they got that seed capital and the structures in place, they now understood how to do their business plan properly, the marketing, the networking. They've seen the importance of all those aspects of their business, and they're very successful. So I really do believe that if we continue this as we are going to for the next 8 years, we should create our 1 million jobs.
Before we joined the Tony Elumelu Foundation, we had a turnover of $20,000, $30,000. And we saved a lot of money. We took the money that we had from Tony Elumelu and we invested wisely. And today we did $1.6 million last year. Thank you. Last year, this time, I was sitting somewhere around here. And, you know, all I had was a dream. And when I heard all the speakers up here, I was like, you know what? I'm going to make something of myself. I'm going to do what I can to get my business off the ground and be disciplined at it. And today, here I am talking to you. So a lot can happen in a year, right?
I think back then I was young and naive, you know. I failed many times. And I went through the 12 weeks training program. And then, just like you, we came for the boot camp. And then suddenly everything started making sense.
When I tell people my business is a year old, they are like, wow, are you sure? But the secret is the training I got from Tony Elumelu Foundation. And I'm so grateful to them. My web developer is a fellow Tony Elumelu entrepreneur. Jamal, I saw him around. Yes, he's over there. He's my web developer. So he has been able to help me bring out my business. We do the vehicle inspections for Uber vehicles. We are the first professional service center in Nigeria. Keep breaking barriers. Try your hands on new challenges. Thank you very much.
And to support our fellow entrepreneurs on their mission to build successful and responsible Pan-African businesses, many organizations have come together to join the Foundation's effort.
You made mention earlier that Microsoft will be providing software support. I want you to clearly explain what kind of software support.
We have the licenses to Microsoft technologies. We are offering you access to Azure for free during 3 years, which is $9,000 access per year.
Now I'm going to turn to you, Clement. In what ways are businesses like Coca-Cola creating opportunities for entrepreneurs like the ones we have in this room?
Now, in this continent, we have a program we call Source Africa. And what essentially it is doing is looking inwards within Africa to become a strategic sourcing center for our ingredients. Whether it is mango, whether it is orange, we want to make Africa the centerpiece of our supply chain in Africa. And for a company as big as Coca-Cola, you can imagine the appetite we would have. One other thing I want to say is this: Coca-Cola has a very special love relationship with women. We started operations in this country in terms of bottling the drinks here since 1953. And from that time, women have been the bedrock of that business. We have women who started with just some bottles of Coca-Cola, one crate of Coca-Cola. Today, they are what we call mega distributors. Some of their businesses have grown to as much as, $2 to $3 million revenue.
Now, what is our role as UBA? If you study our beginnings and where we are today, we have been driven by strong entrepreneurial power at different times over the 70 years of United Bank for Africa. So we understand it. There's no surprise, therefore, that our current chairman's mind is in this, because he's an entrepreneur. So he has been an entrepreneur while he was in the bank as the CEO and at different levels. So coming to this stage of now creating the opportunity for other entrepreneurs to blossom is out of the heart, which was created in United Bank for Africa. So our commitment is to be the preferred partner for you, because we have built the solutions that will support you in what you are doing. Thank you very much.
And so one of the things we're doing through United Bank for Africa across the close to 1,000 branches they have in Africa is to democratize banking, to improve payment systems, to foster intra-Africa trade, to support African entrepreneurs, and help African governments and private sector to develop the infrastructure that will help entrepreneurs to succeed. You have to create the environment, the condition that will make life easier for them and make them competitive. And that is why we have teamed up with other leaders, You have Obasanjo there. You have the president of Sierra Leone, President Koroma. You have some state governors from Nigeria, Zinzu.
Let me give you a flavor of some of the reforms that we've done to support entrepreneurs like yourselves. It takes only 6 hours to start a business in Rwanda, and it's free. To you entrepreneurs, your time is valuable. We would rather have you sitting and coming up with good ideas and implementing them, not running through government bureaucracy. Ultimately, our goal is to nurture entrepreneurs who have the courage to go beyond conventional methods of doing business. This is why we very much commend the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program. Through such initiatives, we can uphold the vision of a bright future for all and unlock our greatest potential. Thank you.
I have no doubt that the weight of this foundation behind you, success is guaranteed. With insecurity and corruption also being tackled, the enabling environment is being created for businesses to thrive in the country. We hope when the time is ripe, young entrepreneurs like you will take advantage of these opportunities.
Abia is unarguably the SME capital of Nigeria because we have 100,000 young men doing shoes, and they have asked me to tell you that just this week, they got the first order this year to supply 50,000 pairs of shoes to the Nigerian Armed Forces. On this note, once again, I want to charge you like young eaglets to go forth and conquer the world bearing the signal of excellence by Tony Elumelu. Thank you and God bless you.
It is your genius and talent that have brought you here. But to become champions and successful businessmen, you will have to again work and work hard. And in your quest to success, ask yourself, how can I, through what I have decided to do, impact my environment? What can I possibly bring to my community? This is the prototype of entrepreneurs that I dream of for my continent. Thank you, Chairman Elumelu, for sharing your light so that African youth can shine. Thank you very much. Good luck to you, and God bless you. Thank you.
I think they can certainly begin to evangelize entrepreneurship and really talk about it positively. The place of the entrepreneur in the Indian society and economy has changed, yeah? And that's because the government has really put a lot of effort in making it, in celebrating entrepreneurship, in the same way as America does it, yeah? Similarly across Africa, they should take a leaf out of Tony Elumelu's book, who celebrates entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs.
And look at, again, the president of Sierra Leone. He canceled all appointments and flew to Nigeria to be with these entrepreneurs. Why? He realized, like us, the future of Africa lies in these young ones.
I am honored to be part of this revolution of self-reliance and innovation in Africa. Infrastructural development is central to Africa's march to economic growth. My government has embarked on extensive infrastructural development to improve on our roads, access to energy, water supply, the internet, and other vital enablers that support the efficient operations of business. To all of this year's awardees, a hearty congratulations. I hope that among you, we will have the new Tony Elumelu in Africa.
Tony and Mrs. Elumelu, I think we all owe you a debt of gratitude. We have to make doing business in Nigeria very, very easy. We have to create conducive environment for people to want to do business here. We have to invite them. We have to induce them. We have to make them wanting to come to Nigeria.
You are a very interesting generation. You are a digital generation. You are a disrupting generation. But you are not the average millennial. You are African millennials, which is something different. Because in terms of innovation, we are number one in some technological niches. We are number one in digital payment. We are number one in some social usage in health. You will be the first generation to be able to say, through all your own efforts, Africa is now first in many domains.
I think we can't thank Mr. Tony Elumelu enough. Yesterday, we were in the same room with the President of Sierra Leone, Prime Minister, Nigeria, ex-President, and all these wonderful, young and energetic Africans. We can't thank him enough, and we are promising him that we are not going to let him down.
This week, Lagos is the entrepreneurship capital of Africa. The reason we are gathered here today is to fulfill the two Tony Elumelu Foundation promises. The first promise is to invest $100 million to identify, train, mentor, and seed 30,000 of you in 10 years. The second is to improve the enabling environment for all African entrepreneurs, and I'm happy Lerato and our leaders have talked about this. It's a continuing process. We want to create our own Mark Zuckerberg from Africa in you. My heart still carries with me the entrepreneurs behind the 65,000 ideas we couldn't select. We need to come together to do something about it. No one but us will develop Africa, so we need to look within, especially those who are blessed and endowed, to see how we can share prosperity. Because ultimately, it is not how much we have in our bank account that counts. What counts, when we are gone from this world, is the legacy we leave behind. The way we give must be such that helps us to create self-sufficiency, self-independence, self-dignity, that helps us to become fishermen and not keeping up perpetually begging or waiting for the next handout to come.
It's been fun, it's been learning-filled, and it's been beautiful.
We have to take our dreams now back to our countries and make them into reality.
On a tous le même idéal, c'est de construire l'Afrique.
Profite pour aussi encourager mes frères, les autres entrepreneurs africains, les startups, de faire comme nous.
Tony Elumelu trouxe para mim, como para todos os companheiros aqui, esperança. Eu passei 5 anos a lutar para desenvolver o meu negócio, mas o financiamento é muito difícil e com a oportunidade em Tony Elumelu Foundation veio trazer esperança.
With the resources that is made available to me, I'm going to work hard to also help other Africans in my community in Liberia, where I reside and do business, so that they can be able to have the same access and be better and stand as their own.
Et d'ici 10 ans, Inch'Allah, on sera une grande multinationale qui transformerait tout le monde.
I hear stories of how people are transforming their communities already. And to me, that's a true validation of what the foundation is doing, a validation also of our chosen approach to intervene. So the foundation should be satisfied that we indeed have orchestrated a movement on the continent of entrepreneurship.
And this movement continues to gain momentum each year with the third round of the Tony Elumelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Program, receiving from 54 African countries a staggering total of 93,000 applications, including 39% of female entrepreneurs. Just as in 2015 and 2016, agriculture is still decidedly leading the sectors with 27%.
92,000 hopes have been dashed, so to speak. It doesn't leave us happy. We wish we had more. If we had more, we will even do more, we'll take more. And to those people I say, don't give up. The Tony Elumelu Foundation, myself, we're reaching out to the rest of the world and fellow Africans too who are endowed to come and take some from this pool of 92,000 who are not successful. we need to do something about this, because imagine if we were able to assist these 93,000 people to become entrepreneurs. In 10 years' time, even if 10% succeed, big, that would be transformational for the continent. That would be real good for employment, addressing issue of unemployment in the continent. That would be really good for addressing poverty, and that would be fantastic in economic empowerment for our females. And we at Tony Elumelu Foundation are open for partnership so that collectively we can create a better future for our young ones.
Lastly, I want to thank you, the Tony Elumelu entrepreneurs in this auditorium. Because the future of Africa is in your hands, and we know it's in safe hands, and you will deliver and make Africa become a respectable and respected community in the world.
Until the credits come on, so can you please roll? What did they do? Why did they stop? Did they stop? Okay. So the film finishes when you have all the credits of the people who made the film happen. I would really love it if you can just roll the credits, please. Because there are important institutions like UBA, the Hares Holding Companies, who've invested in making this film happen, yeah? So find it when I finish. Anyway, so can we, well, while they're finding the end of my film, thank you so much. It's over to you if you have any questions. But the beautiful thing is that you have now, 2017, you've now experienced what 2016 experienced in 47 minutes. And it's amazing, huh? Because a film is only, what it does is to capture the moments. And what we've captured in 47 minutes is the moments of 2016, the year when you begin with the application, and the moments of the 3 days of the forum when we gathered here in October. What's also amazing is a lot of the learning from a lot of the speakers, entrepreneurs, policymakers, government leaders, who you can see are beginning to become part of this movement and embracing the movement, and so that they can go back and make the lives of entrepreneurs, which is you, that much easier in terms of setting up your business and running your businesses. So do we have any questions? I think I've got about 5 minutes. Are you so overwhelmed by the films? If there are no questions, the other thing is that you must tell your own stories. You guys, as Dr. Elumelu said, you have no excuse to fail. Failure is not an option for any of our entrepreneurs. We want to see 100% success of the businesses that we've invested in. But also that if you don't take control of telling your own stories, others will do so, and they will distort your stories. Imagine if we were not documenting this journey, and in 10 years' time, we were like scratching our heads as to, well, how did it all begin, yeah? Or do you remember those people who came to speak? What did, and the 2015 and the 2016 and the 2017. So you yourselves must leverage the power of technology. I started making films when there was no mobile, when there was no fax, when there was no email, when there was no Instagram, Facebook, Google, et cetera, yeah? You have all of that at your fingertip. You can turn your mobile into a camera and you can shoot your own journey, yeah? You can try and get professional in the kind of images and the quality of images that you create of your businesses and the way that you document the story of your business. Because one day, you too will be a Tony Elumelu. And people will come to you and say, how did you start? What were your challenges? What were, who were the people who journeyed with you on your entrepreneurial journey, yeah? And you will be ready to share that story in the way that the foundation in building a legacy and building an institution, this is knowledge that the foundation is creating and depositing for generations to benefit from. Okay, so you've got your agendas. Have you got your programs? You know you have a very, very rich program. Since there are no, you can have questions or comments about the film, and you can come and talk to me afterwards as well, because obviously I'm going to be here for the next 2 days. But really the key thing for you to do is to build these extraordinary business relationships across Nigeria. Nigeria is a huge country. 51% of our entrepreneurs in the program are from Nigeria, from all the states in Nigeria. Go build those relationships. A Nigerian entrepreneur in the south part of Nigeria has a solution that a northern part of Nigeria needs. Similarly, from the north, there's a lot that we can learn from entrepreneurs in the north and the conditions under which they are operating and bring them to other parts of Nigeria. Lagos, of course, we live in a bubble. Yeah, 20 million of us with, where power, water, works pretty well, yeah? And we have different challenges in Lagos. But it's important to know that Nigeria is not Lagos, okay? Yeah? Nigeria is the rural, the urban, the north, the south, and east. And here's an opportunity for certainly the Nigerians, but also the Nigerians to meet with the 53 other countries that are represented here, the speakers that you're going to be meeting. I'm just talking because I think the next panel, do I have to stop? I can stop talking. But guys, really have fun, right? Really go build networks. Really, really, really make Mr. Tony Elumelu proud of his belief in you as entrepreneurs, of his belief in you being the transformational energy that Africa needs today. As he says, the future of Africa is in your hands. Go for it. Thank you.
Can we appreciate this woman? Amazing, 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 fantastic. Now you can go. After watching that movie, 2 things just occurred to me. One, last year we were 65,000. This year we're almost 100,000. What does that tell you? That this weekend will be bigger, will be better, will be bolder. Is that true? Let's put our hands together for ourselves, ladies and gentlemen. Where are the people outside Nigeria? If you're outside of this country, can you raise your hand? Okay, I'm coming to you now. Yes, truly, I'm coming to you so that we can begin to engage in terms of what your experiences have been since you came here. And then those who are from Nigeria, I will also get your, where are you? I will also get your views. A panel is coming here in a few minutes to discuss Capitalism 360. Before the experts come, what do you know about Capitalism? So the first person I'll be coming to here from outside the country, let me see your hand. Are you ready? Which country? Ghana. Akwaba. You're welcome. How long have you been in Nigeria?
Since Thursday.
Since Thursday. Which part of Ghana are you from?
I am from Volta region, but I reside in Greater Accra region.
And you'll be a Greater Accra man. Also, tell me, what has been your experience since you came to Nigeria?
very warming. You know, that Nigerians are very warm people. They have given me a warm reception, and I think it's a very wonderful experience I have.
Thank you very much. Can we put our hands together for our Ghana brother from Ghana? Anybody from the southern zone? Where are you from, my brother? You are from Gabon. How are you? I like that. I'm so fine. Not just ordinarily fine, but he is so fine. So welcome to Nigeria. So what has been your experience?
When I leave Gabon, I never think I come here and I will find this kind of entrepreneurs, this kind of dynamic, this kind of people, this kind of country. Nigerian is really the capital of the entrepreneur, and I'm very happy to be here today.
We can adopt you. Let's appreciate my brother from Gabon. You know, Nigeria just qualified for the World Cup. Is there anybody from Cameroon or Zambia here? Cameroon is here. Forget about the 4-0. Let's talk entrepreneurship. So how are you?
I'm doing good.
What's the name?
Emmanuel Melon.
So tell me, how long have you been in Nigeria?
This is my first time to be in Nigeria, so I came yesterday. And the first thing I saw was food, because I do food tech. So I ate the Nigeria jollof rice and the pounded yam. So I was very happy. And I want to eat okobong before I go back.
My brother from Ghana, something is happening here. You know, there's an argument between the Nigerian jollof rice and the Ghanaian jollof rice. I'm sure you've taken the two.
I ate the two, but I think the red one is Nigeria jollof rice, so that's the one I love more.
Thank you. Let me look for a Nigerian lady. We are going to discuss, you can see them setting up. We are going to discuss Capitalism. Where is that lady? Now, I speak big English now, your hands are down. Are you ready for Capitalism? You're ready? All right. How can I get to you? Can we give her the microphone there? What's your concept? What do you understand by Capitalism?
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Joy Sani. I'm a food processor. What I understand by Capitalism, the first thing that comes to my mind is empathy. It's the fact that as Africans, we are the only ones who actually truly understand the problems that we face. A person who comes from outside may, see our problems and have solutions they want to prefer. But the truth is that it is only us who are in the middle of it. It's only us who have experienced it every day, and it has almost become like, second nature to have these problems. It's only us who will know the true solutions. It's only us who will be able to prefer solutions that will actually stand the test of time. A person from outside Africa might feel empathy for us, but the truth is that we are the ones who will be able to, as a person who has lived in Kaduna, Kano, Lokoja, Lagos, and Abuja, I'm the only person that understands what it is, what the problem is with food transportation, or taking watermelons from the north and bringing it here to the west. I'm the only person that can tell you, the problems that mothers, undernourished mothers in northern Nigeria are facing, and the problems that their malnourished children are also facing. People from outside will come and see these problems and have their solutions, but I'm the one who will be able to tell you that sweet potato is the answer to this problem. Thank you.
African mama. Where are you from in Nigeria? Okay. Caliphate, Kogi, that's good. I'm coming to you guys over there. Is there a Nigerian who is ready to tell me his concept? Don't bribe me with your but I'll come to you. You seem to like the man in suit. All right. Yes.
You're Nigerian or Kenyan?
Are you Kenyan? Okay. The microphone will come to you after this. Go ahead.
Well, thank you very much. Benga is my name. I work in the medical field. I want to say that we face a lot of challenge, not just in Nigeria, but in Africa. When we talk of health issue, we're very familiar with people finding it difficult to access health care. And the reason being that when they get to the hospital, the way they are treated, they are not happy with it. They have to stay for several hours before they can see doctor. And sometimes when they get to the hospital, they don't even know what the doctor is doing. We are providing a solution to that. Capitalism, that's developing Africans to understand the problems of Africa, to provide a solution to the problem in Africa in a sustainable way that will build the economy, not just of Africa, but also export that to the world in such a way that there's going to be value added, and then poverty will be a thing of the past, and we'll be able to live in prosperity by providing solutions to our own problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Give to my Kenyan brother here.
Thank you.
Welcome to Nigeria.
My name is Dennis Mtoro.
Okay.
I'm the managing director of Africa Logistics Limited, and I come from Kenya, Nairobi. Africa capitalism, to me, is the resourcefulness that we are going to get from all the entrepreneurs as young as the age of 12, as we grow them to the age of 70 and so forth. What I believe is that Tony Elumelu has already given an enabling condition for us. Getting a seed capital of $5,000 and $10,000 to grow it is not a joke. You cannot come and say, I've gotten this money, and you don't do something about it. Where the 92,000 people went, we need to go back and pick them as the 2017 entrepreneurs. We should not question when will they be selected. We should be the ones to pick them up and tell the foundation that we can take them places in the years to come. So the solution lies with us, that we cannot remain to be 1,000 for the next 10 years. We want to get those people all the way from 2015, 2016, 2017. Where were they left? Can we pick them up and put them into a structure that we've learned ourselves? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I need to have the voice of a lady from outside Nigeria. Your role has enjoyed a lot. Let's show. That's it. Are you from outside Nigeria? No, we need a lady from outside Nigeria.
Hello.
Okay, introduce yourself, please.
I'm Kamota from Zambia, from Source Limited.
Okay.
So what Africa capitalism is to me is, and I think we're currently experiencing it happening. Africa, you can't hear me? Hello? Hello? Okay, better. So what Africa capitalism is to me is it's seeing Africa move from not just being a place where people get raw materials, but where we as Africans are also on a level playing field with Europeans and Americans. So it will see us moving from just raw material to actually producing our own goods, and we'll have African-owned and managed businesses. So to me, this is us taking the lead and not just being a place where people get raw materials, but we can level the playing field and run and overtake the race. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I need just one final voice. Where are you from? Benin, yes. If you don't mind, if you can even speak in French, just enjoy yourself.
Okay. Merci. Nous
But I
venons
can't
du
interpret
Bénin.
what you are saying, you know.
Nous sommes 20 lauréats du programme Tony Elumelu pour cette année et nous remercions M. Tony Elumelu pour cette initiative. Et je pense que c'est une initiative merveilleuse qui fera vraiment développer l'Afrique. Avec cette initiative, l'Afrique va décoller et nous serons très bientôt le continent le plus développé du monde. Que Dieu bénisse Tony Elumelu.
Leave it with him. Leave it with him. I know you've enjoyed Nigeria. Do you speak English?
Few.
That little few, tell me what your experience has been since coming to Nigeria.
Nous avons pris part.
It's okay, leave him, leave him.
Bon, nous sommes venus par voie terrestre et c'était un peu difficile d'accéder au Nigeria, mais comme nous sommes là, nous voyons que le Nigeria est un beau pays et je pense qu'on pourra avoir beaucoup d'expérience et gagner beaucoup au cours de ce forum.
He said he has enjoyed himself seriously. And so, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, from 55 African countries, close to 100,000 of you, I see champions, I see leaders, I see warriors. We have given our own ordinary man's knowledge of African capitalism. But what do the experts think? So Machi Chris Asoluka will lead the discussion here.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, our very own dearest entrepreneurs. On behalf of the foundation, I want to repeat what our CEO, Pamela Vier, has said. We warmly welcome you to Lagos, Nigeria. We're very excited to have you here. We are sure, we're not telling you to take as much, we are certain you will take as much as you can from this 2-day event. Last year, I stood on this same stage and I discussed Afro-Capitalism. So my presentation really centered around the theory aspect of this idea that our founder had coined by himself. But now, in just 1 year, I'm pleased to report a tremendous scale in the impact. So our philosophy has grown beyond Heirs Holdings, beyond the foundation, beyond Lagos, Nigeria, to across the continent. And quickly, I'll introduce my panelists on the Afro-Capitalism's 360-degree session. My panelists are multidisciplinary and very experienced. They come from the private sector, academia, and the policymaker sector. So without much further ado, I'd like to call to the stage Mr. Edward Cullen, who is the... And then last but by definitely not least, I'd like to call Mr. Sam Wanze, who is the Chief Investment Officer of Heirs Holdings Group, an investment company that has investments across 20 African countries in a number of sectors, including financial services, healthcare, real estate, oil and gas, and energy. Before we begin our discussion, I'll give some background to what we'll be discussing. Our founder and our foundation, our management, our CEO, we have traveled far and wide, from the hills of Rwanda, to plains of Senegal, to communities in Gabon, to cities in South Africa, evangelizing this philosophy of Afro-Capitalism. What exactly is Afro-Capitalism? Afro-Capitalism means that you can do business in a way that you make profits and also create social prosperity. So Afro-Capitalism means that you can do good and also do well for yourselves. You know, a few years ago when we developed this philosophy, it was only an idea. And then we took it to the next level and took it to academia. So we worked with universities across the continent and beyond to give us some academic backing to this philosophy, to ground it in academic literature. But we knew that wasn't enough. We then took it to the next level, which is private sector action. So through the Heirs Holdings Group and through our investments across 20 African countries and beyond, we have shown that it's indeed possible to do well and to do good, to create profit and also to create prosperity in the communities you do your business in. And then the next level was acceptance. Now Africapitalism is being embraced by private sector players beyond Heirs Holdings Group. Mr. Kola Karim will bring his expertise, experience, and ideas in how we can further take this philosophy to the world. And then finally, our entrepreneurs. Africapitalism will be meaningless without you. It is your energy, your stories, your impact, your businesses that show the world that Africa is beyond just another handout story, that show the world that it's possible to do business in Africa in a way that transforms society and will put an end to the negative pervading stereotype around Africa. So now I will begin the panel. The structure will be that each panelist will answer a few questions, and then we'll open up the discussion to the room. We would like to take questions from entrepreneurs because we want this session to be interactive, to be engaging, so that you learn, you address your content, and when you go back to all 54 countries, you will then imbibe and embrace this philosophy fully. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and sit back for a very exciting session. Thanks. So, David, this philosophy really started at the Tony Elumelu Foundation. You were the director, the inaugural director of the Africapitalism Institute. How do you think this philosophy has grown in the years since you developed this alongside Mr. Elumelu? How do you think that African businesses in the countries you've traveled across are taking this philosophy and running with it?
Thank you. First of all, it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to still be a part of the Tony Elumelu and Heirs Holdings family. It's always great to come back to Nigeria and to be in this room with this energy. In answer to your question, you know, Africapitalism is a really big idea, which is probably not surprising considering who the originator of that idea is. Thinking about how do you change an economic system for an entire continent. But it wouldn't, as Somachi said, it wouldn't mean anything unless you could bring that philosophy down to the individual entrepreneur level. And the way I think that it's influenced the way people make decisions is you have to think about your business as entrepreneurs as not just you're in the business of growing maize or making an application for a phone. You have to think about the way in which your business is dependent upon other aspects of the value chain, or else you're going to fail. And so I think that entrepreneurs and businesses around Africa, they think beyond just the narrow scope of whatever product or service that they want to provide, and they think, what are the key inputs that I need in order to be successful as a business? So if something in your value chain or your supply chain is failing, you need to think entrepreneurially about how can I as an entrepreneur find a solution to that thing that may be outside my core business, but that my core business is dependent upon. And I think that is a change in mindset, and it's very unique to a resource-constrained environment in which people have to think beyond the core business about how do they address problems in the value chain that their business is dependent upon, and I think that is very unique among successful African entrepreneurs.
Thanks, David. I think I'll now move on to Sam, who is Chief Investment Officer of Heirs Holdings Group. So this philosophy was developed in-house, so it's sort of homegrown. How do you think that we as a group have taken this philosophy beyond what is written on paper to actually what can be felt by Africans across the continent?
Yeah, thanks. Am I using this or this one? Thanks, Somachi, and good morning, everyone. I think it's important to just go back and set some historical context on this whole concept. Because Africapitalism didn't make Heirs Holdings. Heirs Holdings actually made Africapitalism. My point is, it's a philosophy I think that has been in practice in the group long before we even came up with the phrase itself. I remember when I was even many years ago, as far back as 2004, when Mr. Elumelu still used to run a bank called Standard Trust Bank. How many people know Standard Trust Bank? Those in Nigeria, yeah. And I remember when we were trying to expand into Ghana, I was part of the team that was looking at the expansion of Standard Trust Bank into Ghana. And I recall the presentation we did with the central bank, with the Bank of Ghana at the time. And the selling point was that we wanted to democratize banking in Ghana. And his point was that, you know, you have to take banking or financial services to the level of the average man, because he had in his mind this concept of not only providing commercial return to the investors in Standard Trust Bank, but also creating some kind of developmental impact in Ghana itself. And, you know, fast forward when we started Hairs Holdings in 2010, I remember our very first strategy session that we had, you know, thinking about what we're going to do. It was very clear to us that everything we were going to do was going to be focused on what we called a double bottom line. One was to make sure that the investments we'll do will provide commercial return, but we will not do an investment that doesn't have a developmental impact. And we've been able to do that across, you know, the different sectors. In fact, the selection of the sectors that we invest in today come out from that fundamental principle of sectors that we felt will create both a commercial return, but had the ability to create the maximum level of developmental impact on the continent. So, and you've seen it. I mean, we've done it in across Africa. We've invested in, you know, in healthcare, in agriculture. We come from a financial services background. We've expanded our financial services play. We've gone into real estate, hospitality. We've even gone into things like power, oil and gas, that we feel have tremendous impact not only on providing returns for investors, but also having, you know, great impact on the communities and the countries where we invest in. So it's a fundamental ethos for us as an investment company, this whole concept of Afro-capitalism.
Thanks, Sam. And I'll go to Kola now, who's on my right. And Kola and I were discussing a few minutes before this session, and he told me one thing. He said, the difference between a successful entrepreneur and an unsuccessful one is passion. Until when he heard about Afro-capitalism outside of our group, he recognized the element of passion in Afro-capitalism. And he thinks that as young startups, if you fully embrace what Afro-capitalism means, then you have that passion that will ensure that your business is successful. So I'd like Kola now to just give us a quick summary of his life as, you know, a young man in Nigeria, to now where he is a successful entrepreneur, and how he took the core elements of Afro-capitalism to help his business succeed.
Good morning, Africa. Look, thank you very much so much. It's wonderful being here. It's even more impressive looking at this crowd, very strong entrepreneurial minds, Africans, young, talented. I give it to all of you. Welcome to Lagos, Nigeria. Look, I think for me, Afro-capitalism embodies all that's been explained, but there's a missing link, and that missing link is passion. I will put passion, capital, and doing good. Because being an entrepreneur that you all are, that's the drive that's made you wake up from all the parts and crannies of Africa that you've come from to come here. It's that passion that's driving you. So if you put passion in front of it, then the capital follows your passion, then doing good connects with it. You will be successful. I'll give you a simple example of our story. The focus of what we started out to do as a business is driven by passion. We looked at the 3 silos of growth. And I want you to take this away. There's 3 silos of growth following any emerging economy. Nigeria is one, and every part of Africa falls into that. The first silo of growth that started is the financial services revolution. If you look at your countries, our countries, the financial services revolution has started the growth, that growing story. And that is where the Tony Elumelu Foundation, Hairs Holding itself, started its roots, financial services. So if you look at your countries, from banks to insurance companies, mortgage institutions, this industry started growing because they have a bit more capital, and that capital believes more in its local environment to then start lending to businesses and burgeoning entrepreneurs that we all are seeing today. That's the first one. The second silo is the infrastructure growth story of Africa. That infrastructure growth story goes this way. If you think about it, Nigeria up until 2001 as a country with 120 million people had only 500,000 phone lines. So think back to your countries, where you were post the millennium. Our infrastructure story in Africa started growing, and that is how mobile telephony has changed the course of where Africa's going. Africa's shown within the infrastructure story, we are able to leapfrog technology. Let's go back. In the 80s, when mobile telephony started in the West, the size of the mobile phone was the size of a briefcase. But when we started mobile telephony in Africa, we started using the same mobile phone the same day as they were using in New York and in London. It tells you the African story. We're dynamic, but more importantly, our passion, wanting the best for ourselves, makes that difference. So the infrastructure story of this continent is the good roads, the rail service, airports. That is when Africa starts setting its course. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is your opportunity. That is your entrepreneurial opportunity. The last one is the fast-moving consumer goods story. Think about it. 1 billion people on the continent, 54 to 55 countries on the continent, and 60% of Africa is under the age of 30. If that is so, that is a massive opportunity. You know why? Because Africans love to eat, we love to talk. And because we want to do these things, that is a business opportunity. So if you interline the financial services story, the infrastructure boom potential, the fast-moving consumer goods from packaging to food to agriculture, if you interline all this and start it with your personal and private passion, you will and you can only be successful entrepreneurs. That is our story. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take that away as part of your story. I'll give you an example. If it's anyone's birthday here today, there's someone at the back. If I asked you, because this was a test shown to me about 20 years ago that explains passion. If I ask all of us to sing to that gentleman whose birthday is today but we don't know him, I bet you will start, happy birthday to you. Then the gentleman said we should stop. Because we don't know him, but because he's an entrepreneur, a Tony Elumelu entrepreneur within this group, we should please speak and sing to him and wish him a happy birthday properly. Believe you me, ladies and gentlemen, you then listen and put your passion, and that makes the difference. The song of happy birthday could not have sounded more different. So, ladies and gentlemen, my wish to you is as you come here and as you leave Nigeria, is to take with you the passion, being the driver of your entrepreneurial spirit, because that is the way that gets you to your destination. Thank you.
Thanks, Kola. And then I'll now go to Mr. Kalon, who is the country rep of UN in Nigeria. So, Mr. Kalon, a few years ago, the UN launched the MDGs. And then at the end of the MDGs, the #1 recurring concern was that African countries did not fully embrace it. There was limited success because there was that failure of sense of ownership. How do you think Capitalism offers an approach for the UN and other development institutions to figure out how to bring in Africans into the table, onto the room where the discussion is being made, so that Africans realize that this is a philosophy, they grew themselves, they founded and identified themselves, and so when the UN comes to them speaking the language that they recognize, they'll be more willing to be more active participants. How do you think we can come about that merge?
It's a pleasure to be with you all today. And I see here, what I'm seeing is a star of hope for Africa. And as a Pan-Africanist, I am so thrilled that I'm here with you today. And I'm really happy that a man like Tony can actually create this platform for Africa. I mean, to start discussion about African capitalism and the SDGs, to me, is one of the easiest things to talk about. But let me start by putting in perspective one or two realities that I look forward to when I talk to you, hopes of Africa. And what I start seeing, you entrepreneurs rebranding capitalism in Africa. What does that really mean? I talk to you as brothers and sisters. Yeah, Africa's development is at a crossroad, and it needs to be led, it needs to be owned with a clear vision by Africans. And that is what Tony has come up with in African Capitalism. At the heart of African capitalism and the sustainable development goals are four critical elements to demonstrate their compatibility. It is about promoting prosperity. It is about creating equal opportunities. And it is about environmental passion. But at the central tip of it is the effort to try to end poverty in all its forms and also strengthen what we call that effort of trying to create peace in larger freedoms, but with a major call. What do we need to do to ensure that we leave no one behind? If you look at those four critical elements, you can see African capitalism, and you can see the Global Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals. I am here looking at how African capitalism can be a drive and an enabler to support implementation of the Global Sustainable Development Goals, which are the tenets of future development aspirations. You, as entrepreneurs, are the game changer. And let me leave you with one or two challenges. The statistics are appalling. Every year, we have about 12 million people that are coming to the labor markets in Africa. We can only provide jobs to between 2 to 3 million people. I challenge you, if each of you can create 10 jobs, unemployment of youths will be a story that we will not be saying too much. So I set the horizon high for you, and I set the vision out for you. Tony has laid the path. The Sustainable Development Goals are all about Africa's vision. They are all about ownership, and they are all about leadership. The cross-fertilization of private sector engagement and public sector development are coming closer and closer. And I end, you can do good and do well. That is the world we live in, and we are calling on investors to look at the framework of impact investing as a tool to support implementation of the Sustainable Development Goal, which has an overarching objective of promoting prosperity, ensuring equal opportunities, and also ensuring environmental ownership in a way that we end poverty in all its forms, but most important, we try to walk and leave no one behind. Again, you are the hopes of Africa, and I see you rebranding capitalism in Africa. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much for that beautiful insights, explaining to all of us how indeed the UN has recognized this gap. And with the improved SDGs, they have recognized the role private sector must play for Africa to fully own the development conversation. I'll now go back to David. David, so a concern that has been raised over the years has been Afrocapitalism is not that accessible to us. We aren't reading enough about Afrocapitalism. We're not being told enough about Afrocapitalism. What do you think is the role of academia, more specifically, universities across the continent, to bring Afrocapitalism down to the level where all our entrepreneurs and their counterparts can access it, learn from it, and imbibe it in their businesses?
Thanks. I view Afrocapitalism like an operating system. On your computer, on your phone, it's the underlying system that allows you to use different applications and to have them work seamlessly together. And so Afrocapitalism for students and for young entrepreneurs is where you should start. It's about what kind of value do you want to create. It's been said earlier before the session started. You need to create value in order to make money. You need to create value in order to change your community. You need to create value in order to build something beyond yourself. And that starts at the education level. Secondary education, university education, it has to be about what kind of world do we want to live in and what kinds of values do we want that world to embody. And so Afrocapitalism, as much as it's an economic system, it's also a values system. Not just value in the economic sense, but in the social sense as well as in the personal sense. You as an entrepreneur, you may make a lot of money and be very successful, but at the end of the day, if you're not lifting up the people around you, are you really successful? If you have to step on other people to get ahead, are you really successful? And that starts at such a young age. It starts in the home, it starts in the school, it starts in your places of worship. And frankly, it also requires government to lead by example and to also support entrepreneurs as the seedlings of the kinds of values that you want people to embody in their work, in their life, in their home, and in their community. It's that fundamental. We're not just talking about some fad as a way to do business and then the next thing is going to come along. This is about changing the way we think about creating value in the world. And business and entrepreneurship is one vehicle. And as Sam said in the early conversations with the chairman, the way you build your business is talking about what you value first and letting that influence the kind of business you go into and the way in which you conduct that business. So it has to start very early on in education. Even
before the universities. And I think I will go to Sam now, but I think Sam, in addition to the input you want to make, the beauty of Afrocapitalism is that it cuts across all sectors. So you don't need to be in agriculture to be Afrocapitalist. You don't need to be in healthcare. You can be in any sector you are. And I would like Sam to bring that perspective to the table. Earth Holdings invests in a number of sectors. How do you think in each of these sectors we're being Afrocapitalist while making economic profits?
Okay, thanks. I wanted to just add something to the question you asked, David, and I'll go to this question that you mentioned. So, and then maybe because of my own personal interest in academia, you know, I have an interest in academia, believe it or not. The point I wanted to make was, so I went to business school in the UK, and I was taught, I remember when I was in business school, the mode of teaching usually is you use examples. So you do a lot of case studies, you know, and you draw learnings from those case studies, and you're able to apply that when you get back to real life. One of the problems I had was that a lot of the case studies I was doing were, I wouldn't say they were irrelevant, but did not directly apply to Africa and the markets where I was used to. I mean, I'd worked a number of years on the continent before I went off to business school. And so when they're talking about certain things, in my mind, I'll be saying to myself that there's a fundamental underlying infrastructure, there's an assumption on the role of government, that feeds a lot of the, things that are said. And I used to argue, talk to my professor that, don't you have examples of African companies that we can use to learn? Because, I've learned all these things and all of that, but I go back, and once you get into the system, you have to deal with kind of challenges that you don't face. A good example is many of you who are starting businesses for the first time. Over there, somebody who wants to start a business for the first time, you hear about all these tech guys in Silicon Valley and all of that. They get money from they tell you about the garage. They started their business in a garage with, $5,000 from their father, or $10,000 from their friends and everything. In Africa, we don't have any of that. Some of you may, but the vast majority of people don't have any, uncle or brother to give you $5,000 to start with. And so one of the things that I think is important as far as this nexus of African capitalism and the academia is concerned is your stories. It's the stories of everybody in this room, and every young person that is going into business and looking at business, as commercial enterprise, as a platform for development. We need to have success stories. We need your examples. We need you to make mistakes, to fall, to stand up and run again. We need to see businesses, examples from people sitting in this room where you launch out into something and you have learnings from them, and that story can be told. Today we can tell stories of the things that we've done, in the Hess Holdings Group, and what, Tony Elumelu and a couple of other Nigerians, Kola and all these people have been able to achieve. But we need to be able to filter these stories into the academic system, because this is the story about us. This is what tells how to do business on this continent. It tells you how to rise above the challenges that you face and still make meaningful impact, generate income, and also create sustainable development in the areas that we are in. So I think an important aspect of all of that is every one of us sitting in this room, have this mindset that, I'm going to build something and my story is going to be told. So I thought that would be important to mention. Going back to the question, which I have forgotten, by the way.
I think I'll just give you a few minutes to just discuss the question. So the question was, African capitalism cuts across a number of sectors. So you don't have to be in agriculture or healthcare to be African capitalist.
I got it.
Can you explain?
You
got it.
Yeah, I remember. It's age. As you get older, you forget. So, yeah, believe it or not, it's age. So anyway, you're absolutely right. I think when it comes to the concept of African capitalism, it's not a sector thing. I think it's more around, like we said, it's a philosophy. And the underlying philosophy is that you want to make investments to create commercial return. And the commercial return aspect is important because that's what creates sustainability. Right? When you do investments that return capital, then you can multiply that capital and make more investments. So that's one. But you also want to do investments that is able to create developmental impact. You don't want to make money at the same time you're destroying the environment or the social. It's not bringing any form of development where you're doing. So it's a philosophy. If you go into business with that kind of philosophy, it really doesn't matter the sector that you focus on. I think it will be, that philosophy will drive the way you do things. When you make decisions, when you decide to do this or that, it forms a barometer, upon which you can decide which path to take. So I think it's sector agnostic. African capitalism is completely sector agnostic, but it's an underlying philosophy on the way you look at business as a whole.
Of course. Thank you so much, Sam. And I'll just quickly jump to Kola now and ask him. So when people hear extractives, they think pollution, degradation, but Kola has shown that it's possible to invest in the extractive sector and still share destinies with the host communities you're operating. So, Kola, what do you think we can tell our entrepreneurs who are thinking or already in extractives, how can they embody African capitalism even in this sector?
Thank you. I think first, listening to all that's been said today, think of an ecosystem that embodies first your person, capital, your business ideals and goals, and impact. If you think that before going into any business, the right thing will always be done, or you try to do the right thing. What we do in the extractive sector is engagement first. Know your community. So in your situation, know your customer. Know the people you're dealing with. We interface with our communities. By that engagement with our communities, we understand what they want, what their needs are. If you understand what their needs are, then we could see how our business ideology, our business philosophy could interface with that to make their goals a reality and achieve our aims. You need to put that in context of your business. If you think you're going to do business and only keep value to yourself by ignoring your immediate community, ignoring the impactful position that you should be, then you will fall short. Our focus has always been respect the community you're working with, be impactful within the community you're working at, and engage to succeed in partnership. That is the outline for success.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I think I'll now go to Mr. Cullen and ask him one last question before we open up to Q&A. And the question is, the UN is an extremely influential platform. There is no national government across the world that the UN has not come to advise or lobby or advocate on a certain issue. And how do you think the UN can take the cause of the African entrepreneurs to not only African governments, but even abroad, so that all friends of Africa know that there's a new way of helping Africa, there's a new way of investing in Africa, and that's through using our startups as a vehicle. So what do you envision that role for UN after this session?
Thank you very much. That's a very interesting question, but I want to start from one or two perspectives to try to see if I can provide some of the answers you are looking forward to. What the United Nations or the world body has done was to work on the Global Agenda 2030, which we talked about, and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are more or less the development aspirations that cut across both Africa and developed countries alike. And the United Nations has a comparative advantage. And our comparative advantage is what I simply define in 5 folds. One is technical assistance and support. Our second comparative advantage is policy and adversary services. The third comparative advantage of the United Nations is what we call a convening power. The fourth is that we can bring in the required technical skills to actually support building national or support and strengthen national capacity. But the last but critical role the UN can do is to connect that dot in international relationships, to support governments, to mobilize resources, to fund their development aspiration by trying to support what we call North-South, South-South, and triangular cooperation that is so critical to bring forth the type of partnerships that are required for developments in Africa and other parts of the world at large. But coming back home, looking at the concept of Afri-capitalism, the beautiful work that has been started by Tony, what can we offer? The United Nations is a convener for development, and that is our strength. So how do we think we are coming at bar to support Afri-capitalism as an enabler and a driver to implement the Sustainable Development Goal, and all rest in what we are here for today? How can we promote entrepreneurship with a focus on startups? Startups that can help rebrand African capitalism. Entrepreneurship has several incubation lines before you can really start talking about profit and talking about wealth. Areas of skills development, business development, innovation and technology, linkages to financial houses and funding sources are all areas where the United Nations can work with the private sector and also the public institutions to build the potentials for entrepreneurs to contribute to the development aspirations of the countries they are living in. So look at it this way. The days are gone when we think private sector and public sector cannot work together. The Sustainable Development Goals have given us a framework that can bring together the private sector and the public sector to address development aspirations of our continent. And that is the call. And the financial instruments and tools are out there. Yeah? Impact investing is the framework that can help us incubate our development aspirations. And that is where the private sector comes in. And you, the entrepreneurs, will be the springboard for your respective countries and the continent at large to see how we can actually power development in Africa. And I can see it in your faces. I can see you hungry. I can see tigers, and I can see lions out there. That is my inspiration, and that is why I am here with you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that commitment from the United Nations to take the cause of the African entrepreneur, not just Africa, but to the world at large. Before I go to final questions for our esteemed panelists, I would like to open the discussion. We would like an interactive session. So if you have any questions to ask our panelists, please kindly indicate by raising your hand. And because we have only a few minutes, I'll only call on about 5 entrepreneurs. I'm very sorry, I apologize beforehand. But then because we have 3 sections, I'll get one from here, 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 and another one from the middle. Okay, the lady in black to my right. Please introduce yourself, your name, your country, your sector, and then your question.
Okay, thank you. My name is Natasha Agbangba. I'm from Benin Republic. I really want to thank the panelists because for the first time that I heard about Africa-capitalism, yeah, I didn't really understand this word, the genesis of this word. But today now, I have some words that I pick from your interventions. I have Africa-capitalism as operating system, as economic and value system, and a philosophy. So my question now, you know, Africa-capitalism embodies every aspect of life, social, entrepreneurship, and everything. How can this philosophy guarantee an enabling environment for we entrepreneurs who want to create sustainability? For example, for our government, how can this philosophy impact our government so that they enable the environment for us to thrive, to make our business thrive? So this is my question. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The role of the enabling environment in supporting entrepreneurs. We'll take other questions, but I think our UN country rep will address that question. Very quickly, the young man in white here.
Good morning. My name is Asegu Daniel. I'm from Nigeria. My question is this. Okay, I run an edutech, which connects lecturers, mentors, and students. Now, my question is this. Sir David, you said something about education. Now, my question is this. How do you think that the edutech can be used to spread the information about African capitalism? Because in most schools in Nigeria, I don't think the information or the news about African capitalism is known. I believe me and my team in my school, we once started a campaign. We wanted Mr. Tony Elumelu to come to Futo. We started Tony Elumelu in Futo. So how do you think that we can do this in order for people to know more about African capitalism?
Thank you. And David is quickly writing that question down. I'll take a question from this side now. The young man in the gray shirt, the one just right there.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ken, and I'm from Nigeria. I have two questions. One for Mr. Edward Kalun. And my question is, as a UN representative, how can you people, how have you been able to influence the African governments, to institutionalize Afro-capitalism into developing our economies in Africa? And my second question is to Mr. David Rice. Now, as an academia, how would you suggest, we incorporate Afro-capitalism in our education system such that when students leave school, probably they can be self-reliant and as in they can generate jobs on their own. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you very much. That's David, academia. We already discussed it, so I guess David will just wrap that up more tightly. Somebody from the middle. A lady now. Okay, I have two ladies, and these are the two final questions. I'm very sorry. Okay, the lady here in black, and then the lady there in the light pink shirt. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Rebecca Mo. I'm in the agricultural sector, and I'm from Nigeria. I'm into fruit and vegetable processing. Now, this is my question. Now, how do we engage or involve entrepreneurs who are to be involved in promoting Afro-capitalism in government policies? Now, we have civil servants making policies. Yeah, they're doing well. But entrepreneurs will understand what will work or the reality of what is happening in the field. How can they be involved in this policy making? Because these are things that affect us. The civil servants are doing their best, and that's what we see. But how can people who are in the field, who are involved, who will be influenced by this policy, how can they be involved in this policy making? Thank you.
Thank you very much. The role of entrepreneurs in connecting with government to advocate for a better enabling environment, and Mr. Kola Karim will address that. The final question, and before I go to the final question, just want to explain once more, is Afro-capitalism. So I know it's a mouthful, and you're tempted to say Africa capitalism. It's understandable, but let's try Afro-capitalism, okay? So final question, and then our esteemed panelists will address your questions.
Okay. I'm Christy, and I'm in the edutech sector. I'm looking at, after explaining Afro-capitalism, I want us to see how we can link academia. At what level can we really introduce this idea to our youth to ensure that we get it right at the very foundation of our educational sector.
Thank you so much. And David Rice will address that. And because we have no question for Sam, I'll take one more question to see. I'm the most popular lady in the room right now. Okay, somebody at the very back. A question for me. Okay, the lady in the back, in the black shirt, who is already standing up with her hands up.
Okay, thanks very much. I'm Jeanne Agbazagan. I come from Benin, and I'm in education sector. I want to know how incubator can collaborate with the program Africa Capitalism to promote startup in our country. How can we collaborate, and how can we benefit from this program for the startup? Since we have 10 startups here who are benefit from this program. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. The role of incubators and accelerators in working with government, private sector to empower entrepreneurs. So very quickly, we'll start with Mr. Kalon, who is addressing how we can advocate and lobby the public sector to create the enabling environment entrepreneurs so desperately need. Thank you, Mr. Kalon. Okay, let's reach a compromise. After we're done answering, if there's any time, I promise we'll come back to you. Okay? Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that question. I can see the question from the two participants, from my left and right. But let me try to bring them together so I can add some clarity to it. First is, we are talking about the private sector, public sector linkages. And what can we do to ensure that this concept of Afri-capitalism becomes a driver and an enabler for public sector investment and development? What is 3 points? What is clear is that the major constraints of Africa's development today is financing. Where do we get the money to support our development aspirations? We need to power economies. We are living in a continent with a very, very difficult infrastructural development opportunities. So the infrastructure deficit exists. Skills development is a major concern we have. But at the center of Afri-capitalism and the UN Global Agenda 2030, or to be a little bit more continental, African Union Agenda 2063, are the 4 critical elements are laid out. And they are more or less saying the same thing. It's about promoting prosperity. It's about creating equal opportunities. It is about environmental stewardship. And it is about trying to end poverty in all its forms. It is about strengthening peace in larger freedoms. And it is about ensuring no one is left behind. So when you look at the elements of Afri-capitalism, they focus on value-driven leadership, the issues of proactiveness, the issues of improving on trade between Africa so that we can reach our development aspirations, and so many other investment opportunities out there to address areas of serious concern in Africa: health, education, food security, energy, power, our planet, our oceans, etc., that cut across. So to me, that is the convergence between Afri-capitalism and the Global Agenda 2063. Coming back to the question of this lady, how are we going to ensure that we support you? And one of the limelights for me here today is the MOU that we will start a memorandum of understanding with Tony Elumelu to see how the United Nations, especially United Nations Development Program, can join forces with this to support this beautiful work he has started in Africa. And I think that is to us the groundbreaking engagement we'll be looking at. We are not only going to look at Nigeria, we are going to look at this partnership in Africa at large. But what is so critical is giving you the right skills that are required to do business. As I said, do business in such a way that you continue doing good, but also do well. Is that we have to equip you with the right skills. We have to equip you with the right technologies. We have to equip you with the right innovations that are required to spin your business forward. But last but not the least, how do we link you to financial sources? Tony is giving the seed capital. But what we want to see is, how can we link you to financial houses so that if those seed capitals really start generating some profit for you, you can build on that to take greater risk by accessing financing from the financial sector. I think that is what we are trying to see, how we can contribute to this groundbreaking achievement of Tony Elumelu to start with. So that is our story here today, and our story is simple. We can team up with you to rebrand African capitalism through entrepreneurship.
Thank you so much. On behalf of our entrepreneurs, I just want to say we are beyond certain that the UN has our back. Thank you very much. We'll quickly go now to Mr. Karim, who will address how entrepreneurs can become advocates themselves, how they can fight to get a role at the table, a seat at the table when policies are being created.
One thing that I've not heard, and I think I need to put out to all the budding entrepreneurs in here, to be an influencer in anything you do, sitting where you're sitting, you need scale. So Afro-capitalism in itself as an embodiment and a tool, you need scale, and with scale, you become an influencer to government and policies. Just imagine, if everyone in here is from Ghana, and we're all budding entrepreneurs focusing on the agro-allied sector, just think if we all employ 10 people, add that together, you become such a voice to government because the Ministry of Labor will listen. You become such a value add to the Ministry of Finance because of the taxation. So think about scale, and your scale in itself adds huge value to what government is expecting. Then you have a voice. If there is only one entrepreneur in a community and you only think of yourself, you will not achieve scale, because if you grow your entrepreneurship spirit, embodiment of Afro-capitalism in involving the community, then you become from one entrepreneur this week, and next month there's 2 more. Then the following month there's 10. Think about it. In the village community, you become a voice. You become stronger. That is the embodiment of Afro-capitalism that I want you to take away. You need scale, and with scale, you become a voice. And with voice, people listen. Thank you.
Thank you so much. He has thrown out a nice challenge to you. He's saying that to get that seat at the table, you have to deserve it. And by the way to deserve it is by growing, getting that skill that demands the government to listen to you. David will tell us more about how academia can work to take Afro-capitalism to the grassroots level, to make it accessible to not only students, but young entrepreneurs, young startups across the continent.
Thanks. So I'm even older than Sam, so I have to write things down in order to remember them. So if you want, next time you want to borrow my... no, but I'm going to charge you, right? An aspiring entrepreneur should have sold Sam a pen and a paper. I bet he would have paid a lot for it, given how much he needs it right now. So, yeah, I'm an academic, so I always have my pen. So, academia, I mean, honestly, the short answer is you. If you want to influence academia, it's about you, it's about your stories, and it's about not being afraid to tell your story if you fail. Because let's be honest with each other. 9 out of 10 small businesses typically fail within the first 5 years. That's a reality. It's a reality that we have to acknowledge. How many successful entrepreneurs in the world didn't fail at least once before they became successful? So teaching young people to take risks, to be okay to fail but to not give up, and to learn from their experiences. I mean, this is something, you know, we talk about the enabling environment and government, the relationship between the private sector, the development community. The only way those things work together is because of the way that people start out in terms of having an open dialogue about what their challenges are, what their aspirations are. And that can only start at the educational level. And so, to make it a tangible proposal, my proposal to all of you working with the foundation, working with Parminder and Samachi and Owen and the others, is to make sure you stay in touch. Make sure you keep the foundation informed about whether or not you're succeeding or failing or struggling.
because it's your stories working with the foundation that will capture your experiences so that they can be fed back into academia, into education, to government leaders, so that people understand what it takes to be successful. So it's really incumbent upon you. It's incumbent upon you to keep track of your success and your failure, and to communicate that not only amongst each other, but then the other entrepreneurs where you work and live, to your government leaders, and to reach out to education institutions where you live and say, I want to come and talk to your classroom. I want to come and talk to your community about the power of entrepreneurship and the power of Afro-capitalism to change our communities for the better. So I just put that back on you. It's up to you to tell your stories. It's on you.
Of course. Definitely, definitely. All our textbooks contain stories. And if we don't hear your stories, then as Sam said, and as David has confirmed, there will be a lack of African stories, and there will be a lack of Afro-capitalism that is so desperately needed in academia across the continent. So we need you to keep in touch with us, to tell us your stories, so as we engage universities across Africa and the world, we can input and inject your stories into the curriculum in these different universities. Sam, a question came about how accelerators and incubators can further work with other stakeholders to support African entrepreneurs. As Chief Investment Officer, you have a lot of experience with the CC Hub and other impact investment communities. So you're the best person to answer this question.
Yeah, thanks. Hello? Okay, thanks a lot. So she just had to give me one question, you know, even though...
No.
So, and it's a very good question, by the way. One of the things that I know the foundation has been trying to do is to push this whole concept of Afro-capitalism down to invest to entrepreneurs themselves, so that we can incorporate this philosophy and these principles in the way we run our businesses. And I think finding ways to work with incubators, you know, accelerators, and a lot of these bodies that are coming across to highlight some of these principles is important. A number of things I would say. One is, of course, you know, trying to form partnerships with the foundation so that we can further expatiate on the concept of Afro-capitalism would be helpful. And so that you as incubators will understand and see how that works. Two would be to incorporate within your program some kind of metrics or measures that allow you to measure certain elements of Afro-capitalism itself. So for us, for example, when we look at investments, there are certain key indicators that we have to report on or look at that feed back to let us know how much progress we are making from an Afro-capitalism point of view. So apart from looking at all my return benchmarks, I also have to look at, you know, key developmental indicators that feed back to me and, you know, drive the businesses to ensure that they are following that principle. So the other thing you can look at is to see how in your programs you can identify those key indicators that allow you to properly measure Afro-capitalism itself. And I think the third thing is some of the things that have been mentioned before, which is, you know, there's this concept in the tech world, the concept of failing fast, which is, and it's not a concept that we are used to in traditional business sense. You try so much not to fail, but in the tech sector, you know, failure is generally accepted. And what they teach you is you try and fail quickly, you know, so that you can quickly improve and ensure that you survive. So the other thing I would mention is, you know, it's very important that, you know, a lot of the entrepreneurs that you have within your programs understand that concept of, even though you may not get everything perfect as far as it relates to pursuing, you know, Afro-capitalism as a principle or as a philosophy, it's important to start from somewhere. And if you don't really, you know, hit the nail on the head, you know, the first time, it's good. You fail very early so that you can quickly pick yourself up and begin to move forward fairly quickly. So I think those are the things that I will put forward regarding to that, as it relates to that question. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Sam. Very nicely said. I've just been told we have a few more minutes, about 10 minutes, so I'd like to keep my promise. The lady that I promised a question, yeah, I've seen you. Please give her a mic. Thanks.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for keeping your promise. So I'm Khadija Abdul Kadir, and I'm from Belgium, actually. So this is an event that I flew all the way here to attend. And so I have really some very interesting questions, because we have discussions about, Africa quite a lot around the European Union, and Africa has become lately a very interesting conversation. Of course, we think about, the fact that, we're the mobile-first continent. We think about the fact that there's a huge rise in startups focusing on technology. So from your discussions today, I didn't really understand when you talk about Afri-capitalism, where you're going with that. So I had two questions relating to that. What is the difference, first of all, between social entrepreneurship and Afri-capitalism? Because I think that these are very similar, but there's a small difference, which is the Africa part. So I'm really interested to know, when you say Afri-capitalism, what do you mean? And is it really different from social entrepreneurship? My second question, I think, is for Sam, and as well as Mr. Rice. And this is relating to when you talk about passion and drive, and you talk about failing. I mean, in the Western countries, we talk about failing a lot, because startups cannot succeed really without failing a couple of times. So when you say fail in Africa, and I've been studying Africa for the last few years, and I think we have very, very different challenges. Infrastructure, security, financial security is a huge problem here. So when a startup will take the opportunity to start to fail, but they have families to feed with no financial security to continue to be consistent in failing, what should they do? I mean, what is your suggestion on that? So these are my questions, and I would be interested to know your feedback.
Thank you so much. I think thank you so much. I think I even have more good news. I can take a few more questions, so I can keep even more promises. The lady in the back in pink, she's waving frantically. We'll take her question next.
Hello. Hello. Is it afternoon yet? Good afternoon. Oh, good morning. My name is Dr. Mokweju Afanu. I just came back from the UN International Conference for Sustainable Development. And there's been a lot of talk on Africa being able to leapfrog to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. But basically, I don't know how Afri-capitalism can play into that, because I think there's so much to be done, and there's a lot of potential in Africa, which I don't think we're meeting at the moment. So how do we tap into that to be able to leapfrog and achieve the SDGs? That's one. Two, listen to all the conversations, and I've not really heard much being said about data. And I'd like to know what role data plays in being able to achieve Afri-capitalism, because without data, without statistics, it's going to be difficult to measure the impact or not of the Afri-capitalism plan. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Okay, who said that? Who said that? Okay, you're next. You know, that's what we want, passion. Order in the room.
Thank you very much. My name is Kosi Sochiku.
Hello.
I'm from Anambra State, Nigeria. Then my question is, what's the difference between idea and problem? Because from the 12-week training, let's say week 1 precisely, we are talking about solution and problem. And it appears that our ideas perhaps might be different from the problems around. And when we are studying that, you'll be feeling, oh, does it mean that my idea is not relevant enough? Or does it mean that it's not going to suit into the situation we are? Like I'm going into child photography. And I'm beginning to wonder, the people around me, they don't really understand what child photography is all about. And we are asked to provide a solution. We are asked to find out a problem in our environment. And this is my idea. I've thought about it. And perhaps it's not a problem in the society, but it's my idea. How do I join the two? How do I juxtapose? Then also the community. Then let's look at the phrase of, can anything good come out from Nazareth? In our community, you find out that the prophet is not even relevant in the community. And this is an issue in Africa. They don't support you. Even your family members are not supporting. From my family, I know I was headstrong for me to be in photography. And I didn't get that support till this point. That is when I'm getting the little support. Now you begin to juxtapose the community. They don't want to hear your voice. They don't want to patronize you. They don't want to do that. They will say, is it this one of our neighborhood? Is it, how do we handle this as startups? How do we handle this as Africa? Because this is one of the problems that is really sucking us. And some of this community, they want to impoverish you. They don't want to pay. They don't want to pay. They don't want to pay you. So how do we start with the community? You even make your earnings from outside. How do we start the community? Please clarify us on this. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Question.
So much passion in the room.
Question.
I'm here, No.
Please.
We
question
will
here.
Order.
Question.
We will answer the questions we have now, and then we will accommodate another round, okay?
Madam.
We have time. So we'll address the questions we have now, and then we'll come back for one last round, okay? So I'll start with Kola. Kola, a question was asked, what is the difference between social entrepreneurship and Afro-capitalism? Is there any difference? And if there are differences, how can you best explain them?
Thank you. I think the question you asked is a very, very strong and good one. Afro-capitalism is a rubber stamp that all of us here carrying as Africans. That, from my standpoint, is a big rubber stamp. Afro-capitalism. Social entrepreneurship is an interfit of social enterprise, capital, and doing good. Without the Afri in it, my view is Afro-capitalism has that rubber stamp as an African. Bringing capital, entrepreneurship, and doing social good within an African context. That's my explanation of it.
Exactly, and some would like to add to that.
Yeah, let me add to that. And the reason I want to add is because this is a question that has come up. This is a question that has come up in the past. Can you hear me? Okay. This is a question that has come up in the past. So I used to sit on the board of the Global Impact Investing Network. I was there for 2 years. And I was representing Africa on that board. And the reason, one of the things that used to come up was there's a lot of social entrepreneurial programs in Africa that attracts a lot of PRI investments. You know what we call PRI, for those who are in the philanthropic world. And they wanted to understand the distinction between that and impact investing and what I was proposing on the board then, which is this concept of Afro-capitalism. Now, if you look at a lot of social enterprises, one thing they lack is scalability. Most of the social entrepreneurs that you find are usually narrowly focused within around addressing a specific social problem. So they identify a problem that is social, and they try to use entrepreneurial solutions to address that problem. Usually those problems are narrowed within a certain defined place. And then, and so most of the ideas don't find scale. What we are talking about is beyond you just trying to solve some kind of, social problem that cannot be scalable. What you're looking at is identifying opportunities. You're starting from identifying opportunities within your sector. Like the lady mentioned them, there are problems you're trying to solve, but you're in solving those, in addressing those opportunities, or in making money from doing that, you are now recognizing the importance of ensuring that you are creating developmental impact. A good example is if I wanted to start a bank, right? I don't need to, even if I didn't see a scenario where, we say there are X million of unbanked people. I may find a small village and find that people are not banked there and come up with some kind of solution, entrepreneurial solution to address that. That's one thing, and that's what social enterprise addresses. However, even if I start a bank that is as big as the biggest bank in Africa, the whole idea is that as I'm doing that banking business and generating return, I must also recognize the importance of creating social impact. So the solutions, the products, the kind of things that I generate and I develop must cut across, must have this sense in it of being able to generate a return. So that point I thought it was important to make. For me, in my mind, is more of the scale of how you look at a social enterprise as opposed to a business that you are doing, which is driven by a principle of Afro-capitalism.
Of course.
Yeah.
David wanted to quickly add something.
So I want to be a bit controversial in saying I don't believe in social entrepreneurship or impact investing.
And the reason is because why do we segregate commercial activity and commercial and social value? Why do we separate those two things? Why do we have to encourage people to think about the social impact when they're starting their business? These two things should be inseparable.
Exactly.
The fact that we have to convince people, no, you should think about the community. You should think about the wellness of your employees. You should think about the sustainability of your process. Why do we have to convince people of that? So it comes back to education. Starting out, people have to know that, for example, it may be cheaper for the company that's drilling for oil to flare gas, right? Because the economics don't work yet. It's cheaper for the company to flare it. But how much does the environmental cost the community that the pollution causes? So to me, the question is, how do you embody a set of values in the business community so that there isn't a separate discussion about social value and economic value? So I don't believe in social entrepreneurship. I think responsible entrepreneurship encompasses social and economic prosperity.
I think David has just nicely said that there's only one way of doing business to make sure you come about twin outcomes of economic profits and social prosperity. There should be no compelling you to think about the community long after you started your business. There's only one correct way of doing business as far as this panel and this room is concerned. Mr. Cullen, while you were away, a question was asked to the UN. And he said, what really is the future of Afro-capitalism? How do we take this philosophy, this passion in this room, and ensure that long after this conversation, in months and years to come, we still understand this philosophy and we take it even beyond the classroom, beyond our businesses, to international discourse and practice?
It's easy if I want to answer that question from my Pan-Africanist perspective, which is really at the heart of Afro-capitalism for me, is that it gives me that push and spin as an African to try to own and lead my own development aspiration. It gives me that, in that strength to come up with value statements or value propositions that actually pushes my ideology as an African. And this is a continent of hope. If there is one hope left in the world, it's Africa. So why can't we own it and lead it? That's my question to all of you. And what is wrong about African capitalism? What is wrong about Africa owning its own capitalism? What is wrong about us rebranding capitalism in Africa? That does not stop partnership. It does not stop partnership, but it gives us that drive. And that's this drive we have been struggling with. So I don't really buy into the idea of African capitalism, social capitalism, or whatever. I started off by telling you guys, do good and do well. At the same time. That's what we're talking about. Yeah? Do good and do well. And I have tried to establish to the audience here today that the philosophy of African capitalism and the global agenda 2030 and the sustainable development goals are so linked. And I also raise the need of how we can use the concept of African capitalism, owning our own vision, owning our own development aspirations, in order to actually achieve some of the plans we put in place to put this continent back on the road. And that's the hope ahead of us. So I repeat it again, African capitalism, global agenda 2030, and the Sustainable Development Goal, and African Union Agenda 2063, 5 key ingredients, cut across both concepts and vision. 1, promoting prosperity. 2, creating equal opportunities. 3, environmental stewardship. Work to end poverty in all its forms. Strengthen peace in larger freedom, and make sure you leave no one behind. Wow. Is that not what African capitalism is saying? It's the same. It's the same. And we are against, I also want to encourage you again and tell you that the engine room for the Sustainable Development Goal, I'm sure my economists are around here, is the private sector. Of course. That's the engine room. And the private sector is the one that's going to power, yeah, of course, the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goal. And what is the role of governments? It's also critical here. They have to create the right enabling environment for the private sector to engage. 2, they have to put in place the right legislations that are required to protect businesses. And 3, they have to create financial opportunities for successful entrepreneurs to scale up their investment so that they can create more employment, do good, at the same time do well. I think that is the motivation behind the Tony journey. And I'm joining that journey because I just believe in it. And as a Pan-Africanist, there's nothing wrong with African capitalism. We can own our own capitalism, and we can use entrepreneurship to rebrand capitalism in Africa.
Of course, of course. What a beautiful conclusion. I know there was a question about data, but I think Sam and David addressed that. We wouldn't get data unless you tell your stories, unless you feed back your experiences, unless you feed back your failures, unless you feed back what you think the policymakers and public sector can do better to support you. And with this, we can advocate with you side by side to influence academia, influence public sector, and to give them the data that they need to make informed policies that will support you and your businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have more questions, I encourage you to go to our platforms on social media, Tony Elumelu Foundation. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook. Ask your questions, and I'll make another promise. I'll ensure that each question is answered. I'm Somachi, and I make that promise to you. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for a wonderful session. Thank you, my esteemed panelists, for an active, engaging, interactive session. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a beautiful next 2 days. Learn as much as you can, and go home and transform the world by being Afro-capitalist. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Please, let's put our hands together for this amazing panel. Thank you so much. Well done. Well done. We We are working on time, and we need to quickly do a few things. But let me also tell you that in the next 2 days, today and tomorrow, I will not be here alone. I will also be here with a woman who believes in entrepreneurship, a world-class communicator, and a beautiful mother. Dio, I know you are not saying a word now. Can you please come on stage? Let them have a look at you. This is Mrs. Dio Lani Benjamin. Yes. Yes. That's my co-anchor, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. And so immediately after the tea break, you will see her, and she will learn. So we have about 10 minutes to 12. Let's be back here at 10 minutes after 12. Tea break. Exactly 10 minutes after 12, we'll kick off. Let's be back here now. Enjoy your tea.
I will advise you to.
I'm talking of from a who can bring Nigeria together again. Who can bring Nigeria back together? Exactly. No, because right now that's what we need. Who can bring Nigeria together again? Is what